What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories. 12SS Chapter 264 The Terrifying Blackbeard, is the White Group in danger? This moment, Whitebeard and Blackbeard moved at the same time. I saw Whitebeard stepping forward, taking heavy steps, and launched a charge. Wherever it passed, red thunder and lightning flashed, and the ground cracked like a savage beast passing by, and everyone subconsciously retreated. In the battlefield, a mysterious sky's path suddenly appeared. When Blackbeard saw this, he gradually started to laugh. Ha ha ha. Dad, you are already old. Please stay here completely today. Dark cave path. As Blackbeard's words fell, a dark substance surged out of his body like smoke. Looking down from the battlefield, you can see that with Blackbeard's body as the center, a black smoke suddenly spreads out. Like a pitch-black tide, it spread to Whitebeard in the blink of an eye. When Whitebeard saw this, his expression did not change and he kept walking. Only the lower body suddenly turned dark, and the armed domineering force was activated. With the strength of Whitebeard's armament and domineering power, Blackbeard's dark fruit ability has no effect on it at all. However, Blackbeard does not intend to absorb Whitebeard's ability, but only changes the terrain. Black smoke was seen surging, and the ground where Whitebeard was sitting suddenly began to sink. Realizing this, Whitebeard raised his eyebrows and suddenly jumped up again. Drink. The Kong Yunki in his hand once again flashed with thunderous black light and white energy, and then suddenly slashed towards Blackbeard. Boom! The space collapsed, and a terrifying slashing wave suddenly surged toward Blackbeard like an overwhelming mountain. Only this time, Blackbeard was prepared, and Whitebeard's attack failed. Momo, 30 times speed. Blackbeard gave a low shout, and his figure suddenly disappeared from the spot. With a swish sound, he appeared in a position far away from the chopping wave as if teleporting. Blackbeard's cannot be shaved Marine 6 style. But with the blessing of Momo's fruit ability, his speed was soaring, and he suddenly showed a similar effect, and his speed was even better than that of Shao. Swish, brush, brush. After avoiding Whitebeard's attack, Blackbeard did not stop, but flashed several times and came to the bottom behind Whitebeard. At this time, Whitebeard's figure had just fallen from midair, and Blackbeard suddenly showed a ferocious smile. Dad, take this punch from me, Momo, 10 times the body of a giant. Blackbeard's size suddenly increased tenfold, turning into a giant more than 30 meters tall. Then he punched Whitebeard with his bare hands. The huge fist rolled out like a black hill, even mixed with dark red lightning. When Whitebeard saw this, he couldn't help but feel a little scared. In fact, he also knew the ability of Momo Fruit. The former World Destroyer, Brindywald, was still a great pirate at the same time as him. It's just that guy, not that scary, but now, the Momo Fruit is in the hands of Blackbeard, and it seems to have become even more terrifying. Moreover, it doesn't matter that this guy Blackbeard has Conqueror's Haki. He actually learned how to be domineering. When did this happen? This guy is hiding too deeply. His mind was spinning, but Whitebeard was not afraid at all. He suddenly made a fist with his left hand and suddenly punched it out. Others are in midair and cannot dodge at all, so they can only choose to fight head-on. The moment the fist blasted out, there were also various strange phenomena. White halo, black light, and dark red thunder and lightning, all converged in one punch. The next second, 2 fists, one large and one small, collided violently. Boom! At this moment, a shocking loud noise rose. The space seemed to be really blown apart, and it whined like it was overwhelmed. The terrifying movement made everyone around them unable to help but look this way. After seeing Blackbeard become so huge and face to face with Whitebeard, Marco, Ace and others were shocked. Every time Blackbeard appears, he seems to change dramatically. Forget about the previous war on the top, they were still beaten by Whitebeard. But now, he is on par with Whitebeard, and what follows seems to confirm this. After the loud noise, a huge shockwave burst out again. The figures of Blackbeard and Whitebeard moved backward at the same time. This time the two faced off. Whitebeard, as the 4 emperors, did not have the upper hand. Ha 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 ha, Dad, did my power surprise you? Blackbeard was even more proud. When Bajus and his subordinates saw this, their morale was greatly boosted. Marco couldn't suppress Lafitte for a while. Along with the loud noise, the ground collapsed. Coming closer, Blackbeard punched out. Whitebeard held the Kong Yunchi, wrapped in a white halo, and slashed it with his sword. Blackbeard's figure is sometimes huge, sometimes shrinking, sometimes calm, sometimes swift. Whitebeard is really old. A fist that is as big as a mountain is condensed out of the palm, and every time it strikes, it can take away a large number of members of the White Group. Amidst the loud rumbling sound. In this way, the entire Whitebeard pirates were at a disadvantage. Facing Blackbeard, the new top powerhouse, he was unable to show his crushing power. Instead, in the subsequent battles, he was gradually suppressed by Blackbeard. That is to say, the Whitebeard pirates and its affiliated pirate groups had a large number of personnel, and their strength was almost twice that of the Blackbeard pirates, so they could barely maintain the situation. So much so that he can no longer maintain the power of a top powerhouse. But then, as the evil king launched his island ability, this situation was reversed. As a result, within a short while, the Whitebeard pirates could no longer maintain their numerical advantage. Whitebeard frowned, and after standing firm, the Kong Yunky in his hand suddenly cut across. Bang! Boom! After being knocked away by Blackbeard, Whitebeard was fine. However, in the face of this shocking impact, Blackbeard was not afraid. With his huge body, he rushed over with a big smile. As for Chaozi and others, they are no match for Daju and others. Marco and others were shocked. Its body was larger than that of ordinary giants, and after a charge, it actually broke through the impact. This situation greatly reduced Whitebeard's attack power, and eventually caused him to be knocked away by Blackbeard. The King of Evil merged with the island and began to attack the members of the Whitebeard pirates. Boom! Dad. He did not go to those captains, but dealt specifically with ordinary members. However, this situation seems to really confirm what Blackbeard said. Seeing Whitebeard at a disadvantage, the rest of the Whitebeard pirates seemed to be affected as well. The space collapsed again, and a ring-shaped shockwave suddenly swept away. Faced with Badger's fists, Ace retreated steadily. But just then, an accident happened. In comparison, Whitebeard's attacks were somewhat the same, and even slower and slower. If there are no accidents, the outcome of this battle of reckoning is self-evident. But at this moment, a black smoke-like substance emerged from Blackbeard's pitch-black fist, and it actually swallowed up the aperture in Whitebeard's hand that symbolized the power of the shock fruit. Chapter 265 Unexpected Support? A corner of the battlefield. Flames rose and the ground exploded. This is where Ace and Badger's fight. The power of both of them is amazing, so there is no one around, only the flames are constantly rising and dying. However, at this moment, Ace, who was like a god of fire descending to earth, had a trace of blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. On the contrary, his opponent Badgers was not seriously injured except for some slight burn marks on his body. Why ha ha ha, my current strength is only that of Captain Teach. Seeing that Ace was injured, Badgers laughed and felt proud. Originally, he had amazing strength and could easily lift a house. Now that I have become a user with the Power Fruit ability, although it is not as exaggerated as the Blackbeard Momo fruit, it has also been amazingly strengthened. And what he has gained is not just pure strength, but also wrist strength, leg strength, endurance, etc. This also resulted in Ace being no match for him in the power competition. As for Ace's flame, it naturally has no effect when he possesses armed domination. Ever since, within a moment of the two fighting, Ace was also suppressed by him. Next, Badgers was planning to defeat Ace in one go. But just then, an accident happened. A black shadow suddenly shot out from the flames on the side and struck towards Badgers. What? An astonishing strong wind swept over. Badgers was startled and subconsciously raised his arms to block it in front of him. When the Force Fruit ability is activated, it directly forms muscles that are so exaggerated that they explode. At the same time, there is also armed domineering attached to it. At this moment, Badger's thick arms seemed to turn into iron shields. But the next second, there was a bang. Badger's expression changed, and he felt a strong pain coming from the weak point of his arm. Then he flew out completely. Ah! Badgers screamed and was suddenly knocked 10 meters away. Ace was stunned when he saw this, but when he looked at the black shadow, he suddenly showed a look of joy. Sob. The black figure that knocked Badgers away was a young man in black with a scar on his left eye and holding a long water pipe. If not Sob, who else? Ace was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect to see Sob here. Sob, why are you here? After Sabo beat Badgers away, he looked at Ace and grinned. Ace, I'm sorry I didn't catch up last time, but this time, it's my turn to help you. Upon hearing Sabo's words, Ace suddenly smiled. Boom. At this moment, Badgers struck again, the second in command of the Revolutionary Army. He rushed over again like a tank, and when he saw Sabo, he couldn't help showing surprise. He doesn't know much about the relationship between Ace and Sabo. But soon, Badgers sneered again. Even if you two come together, you are still no match for me. Badgers bulged up his terrifying muscles, clenched his right fist, and suddenly punched forward. Bang! The power was so strong that it actually caused him to hit an invisible impact. Although it is not as exaggerated as Whitebeard's shock fruit, it still covers 10 meters in front, forming a terrifying shock wave. Ace and Sabo ducked away at the same time, and then they rushed towards Badgers in unison. I don't know if it was due to Sabo's influence, but Ace faced off against Badgers again, and was not suppressed. Instead, his fists were full of fire and passion. As for Sob, he was also extremely excited. In the last battle on the top, he regretted not being there. He could only watch Luffy, who was not yet able to take charge of his own affairs, desperately trying to save Ace. But this time, it won't happen. Before the Battle of Reckoning started, he went to Long to ask for leave, in order to participate in the Battle of Reckoning and help Ace. Sabo's power cannot compare to Badger's at this time. But the Dragon Claw fist he practiced was very unique. Ability to launch weak point attacks. So in a real fight, he and Badgers are on par. In this way, the combination of Ace and Sabo naturally began to suppress Badgers. In other words, after eating the power of the Power Fruit, Badger's endurance became stronger. Otherwise, in less than a dozen rounds, he would probably be defeated by the two brothers Ace and Sabo. The improvements in the battle situation here seemed to have begun to affect the entire battlefield. Marco broke out and directly knocked Lafitte away. Foil Bister, using the secret of foil, defeated a large number of members of the Black Group. As for Josie, he seemed to be crazy too. Half of his body turned into a diamond and he ran rampant on the field. Even the hands and feet of the island formed by the King of Evil were partially destroyed by him. But the biggest change is the battle between Whitebeard and Blackbeard. Wow! Suddenly, Blackbeard's shrill screams echoed throughout the audience. A cut suddenly appeared on his shoulder, and blood splattered out. Turned out to be. After Blackbeard had the upper hand, he became arrogant and looked down on Whitebeard more and more, suppressing him crazily. Especially at a certain moment, after Whitebeard was suspected of having an injury, he beat Whitebeard to the ground. But what Blackbeard didn't expect was that Whitebeard's expression of pain was actually fake. At a certain moment, Whitebeard's face returned to normal, and Kong Yunki slashed towards Blackbeard's head. Blackbeard instantly realized that Whitebeard was deliberately showing weakness to his enemy to trick him. He knew there was something wrong with his body, so he took advantage of it and numbed Blackbeard. Blackbeard reacted completely, but it was already too late. In a hurry, he could no longer dodge, so he could only lean to one side and withstand the attack. His armed color, the substance formed from the dark fruit, and his powerful physique were unable to block the knife, and a terrible wound was opened by the knife. The intense pain almost drove Blackbeard crazy. Seeing this, Whitebeard rushed towards Blackbeard again. But at this moment, Whitebeard's body froze, and his mind was shocked. His charging figure suddenly froze. Whitebeard's brows suddenly wrinkled. He had indeed used a trick just now, pretending to have a physical problem, to paralyze Blackbeard and create a fighting opportunity. After all, Blackbeard is the traitor on his side, and he is obviously very aware of his physical condition. What Whitebeard didn't expect was that he actually had an attack. And it's still at this critical moment. The same intense pain came, but Whitebeard didn't say a word, intending to survive it and finish off Blackbeard completely. But at this moment, an accident occurred again. Blackbeard fell to the ground and shouted towards the sky, "Kaido, you still haven't taken action." Hearing this, Whitebeard was startled. The entire battlefield was also silent. Immediately afterwards, everyone subconsciously looked up, even Whitebeard. I saw a huge dark cloud rising in the sky at some point. But at this moment, the dark clouds broke open, and a hideous and terrifying creature poked its head out from the clouds. It turned out to be a huge blue dragon measuring 1,000 meters. Chapter 266 The Battle of Reckoning between Kaido and Yang Hao. Kaido. As soon as the giant dragon appeared, everyone in the audience was shocked. Everyone immediately recognized the identity of the dragon. It's none other than 100 Beasts. Kaido, Marco and others were shocked. Never would I have imagined that the Blackbeard pirates would be frantically recruiting members during this period, and they would have grown to a large scale. Now they even unite with Kaido. Certainly, during the war, Blackbeard had already cooperated with Kaido. It's not too strange that the two sides cooperated again to deal with Whitebeard. But Kaido's arrival still made Marco and others feel wild. The situation was not very good originally, but now that Kaido has joined, how can it be better? But Badgers and others laughed one after another. They have long known about Kaido's existence, so even if the Whitebeard pirates attack, there will be no panic. How could two top powerhouses, Blackbeard and Kaido, be no match for an old and frail Whitebeard? As for Ace, Marco and others, although they are not weak, they are definitely not their opponents. Therefore, the outcome of this liquidation battle has long been determined. Blackbeard naturally thought so too. Seeing Kaido appear, the panic just now disappeared instantly and turned into a proud sneer. Looking at the gloomy Whitebeard, he laughed wildly. Ha 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 ha, Dad, I'm sorry, I will give you a grand burial. At this moment, in the high altitude, the 1,000-meter green dragon completely stretched out its body, and then shot down like a meteor. When Blackbeard and the others saw this, their eyes lit up. Marco and others' expressions became even darker. As for Whitebeard, he held Kong Yunki tightly and showed no timidity at all. Even if the situation is bad, he, the captain, must not panic at all. This is the difference between him and Blackbeard. Seeing that Kaido is attacking, Whitebeard is about to stop him. But at this moment, Whitebeard was suddenly startled and his face looked a little strange. Kaido, who rushed down, didn't seem to be attacking towards him. What's going on? At the same time, Marco and others, as well as Blackbeard and others, gradually discovered that something was wrong. Especially Blackbeard and the others looked at the giant dragon figure in astonishment. Didn't we agree to deal with Whitebeard together? Why didn't Kaido fly down in the direction of Whitebeard? Just when everyone was confused, Kaido suddenly fell. Boom! The entire Beehive Island was shocked. The evil king screamed. Immediately afterwards, Kaido's screams and roars also sounded. Yang Hao. Hearing Kaido's roar, everyone was stunned, and then looked up to the sky as if they had thought of something. In the high sky covered with dark clouds, I don't know when another figure appeared. This figure was covered in golden aura and had an astonishing aura. Because the distance was too far, I couldn't see clearly, but the familiar terrifying aura and Kaido's roar clearly revealed the identity of the other party. The new most powerful Sea Emperor, the ape god Yang Hao. He's here too. The faces of Blackbeard and others suddenly became extremely ugly. Marco and others were refreshed. Now, no one will underestimate Yang Hao, the youngest of the 4 emperors. Marine has placed a bounty of tens of billions on him, which is equivalent to official recognition of his identity as the most powerful Sea Emperor. And even without these, the opponent's record of fighting at the top, beating Kaido, and overwhelming Sengoku is enough to show how powerful he is. Yang Hao. Why is he here? Marco and others were puzzled and a little surprised. They also suddenly understood why Kaido's attack direction was wrong. It turned out that he was knocked down by Yang Hao. At this time, Whitebeard looked at Yang Hao in the sky with a somewhat surprised expression. During the call between him and Yang Hao, he clearly rejected the other party, but he didn't expect that the other party came anyway. Thinking of this, the corners of Whitebeard's mouth quirked up slightly. As for Blackbeard and the others, their expressions were extremely gloomy. They were also very aware of how terrifying Yang Hao was. Unexpectedly, this time, the opponent would once again help the Whitebeard pirates. This is trouble. Hey, Yang Hao, this battle is none of your business, why do you want to get involved? The leader, Blackbeard, was so shocked that he couldn't help but question Yang Hao. Originally, with Kaido included, he was sure of victory. But now, Yang Hao's appearance makes him less confident. The other party is the most powerful Sea Emperor, and he has many powerful generals. 3 disasters and 4 generals, as well as Shiryu of the Rain, that guy who adapts to the changing circumstances. Thinking of Yang Hao's power and the many strong men under his command, Blackbeard couldn't help but sweat broke out on his forehead. At this moment, because of Yang Hao's appearance, the entire battlefield came to an instant standstill. And this is the deterrent power of the most powerful Sea Emperor. At this moment, Yang Hao was suspended in the sky, overlooking the battlefield. In fact, he has been here a long time ago. After all, he had predicted the Battle of Liquidation, so there was no way he would be late. The reason why he never appeared was just waiting for Kaido to take action. He knew that Whitebeard was also arrogant. If he was just dealing with the Blackbeard pirates, he would indeed refuse his help. But if Kaido intervenes, then he will definitely not refuse his help again. And now, as expected, there was a smile on Whitebeard's face. In this way, Yang Hao was naturally relieved. As for Blackbeard's question, Yang Hao answered while diving down. Blackbeard, I have no interest in getting involved in your fight. It's just that this guy Kaido P***d me off. I came here specifically to kill him this time. Yes. Yang Hao's goal is Kaido. Of course, if possible, he wouldn't mind harvesting the Blackbeard pirates. As for the Whitebeard pirates, they no longer pose any threat to him. If he has some friendship, the Whitebeard pirates will even help him overthrow the world government. Whoosh! Yang Hao suddenly arrived on the battlefield. At this time, he had suddenly entered the Super Saiyan ape god form. He was not polite, and as soon as he finished speaking, he went straight to Kaido. At this time, Kaido's 1,000-meter dragon body had shrunk. The next second, an extremely strong man jumped out of the pit, with traces of dragon transformation still on his body. It's Kaido in half-human, half-dragon form, roaring thunder 8 trigrams. Being shot down from a high altitude by Yang Hao again, Kaido felt very humiliated and suddenly fell into rage. Originally, this time, he came here to show off and kill Whitebeard. But he never expected to be stopped by Yang Hao again. Thinking of the previous war situation, Kaido felt that this was also his own battle of reckoning. This time, we have to settle all the old and new grudges with Yang Hao. In a rage, Kaido instantly went all out. The terrifying Conqueror's haki was wrapped around the mace, and he smashed at Yang Hao with great speed. In an instant, lightning and thunder roared with great force. When Yang Hao saw this, he was not surprised but happy. Ba Tang. Well done, Ape God. Gun. If after killing Kaido, he can also learn to dominate from him, it would be the best thing for Yang Hao. That's all. Under the gaze of everyone, Yang Hao and Kaido, the 2 top powerhouses, fiercely fought against each other. Chapter 267 Kaido and Blackbeard's Determination. Ape God. Gun. Yang Hao punched out with terrifying power, instantly causing a huge flame. Immediately afterwards, the flames burst out with an extremely powerful impact. By now, Yang Hao's Ape God's spear was incredibly powerful. Not only can it easily cause flames, it can also form shockwaves out of thin air. You know, this is an impact that requires the use of the 6 Kings spear. But now, Yang Hao's simple fist can be formed. This means that every attack he makes is a 6 Kings spear. Of course, it's not just the 6 Kings spear. The power of Yang Hao's punch also includes his own terrifying brute force in the tyrannical armed Sei Liuying. Ever since, under the gaze of everyone, Yang Hao's fist blocked Kaido's angry mace. Boom! The 2 attacks collided, causing a loud roar in an instant. The power reached its limit and turned into an astonishing shockwave that swept away. Yang Hao and Kaido's figures retreated away at the same time. Looking at the Super Saiyan like Yang Hao, Kaido couldn't help but feel fear flashing in his eyes while being furious. Now Yang Hao's strength seems to be slightly inferior to that of the white-haired giant ape during the war on top. But it must not be underestimated. He struck with all his strength, including Batang, but he couldn't do anything to the opponent. Thinking of this, Kaido's face became serious, but looking at Yang Hao, Kaido sneered. You probably can't last long in this state. In fact, what Yang Hao didn't know was, after the war, Kaido planned to settle accounts with Yang Hao. He even deliberately recalled Yang Hao's abilities and analyzed them. Later, Kaido discovered that the state of Yang Hao's white-haired giant ape should not last long. After all, changing forms will consume more energy and physical strength. This number will become more as the gap between the power of transformation and normal state becomes larger. In other words, the stronger the transformed form, the more energy it consumes and consumes. And Yang Hao's white-haired giant ape transformation is obviously not the original transformation of the animal fruit ability. It can be seen from this that even if Yang Hao has the ability of the animal fruit, his strange transformation form will not last long. Realizing this, Kaido naturally gained confidence again. Even though he was beaten by Yang Hao in the battle on top, in fact the injury was not serious. He is recognized as the strongest creature in the sea, land and air. This kind of strongest actually does not refer to strength, but to his vitality. To put it simply, it means resisting beating. In other words, as long as he can resist until Yang Hao cannot maintain his form, he can turn defeat into victory. Now, although this form surprised him a little, the logic is the same. Thinking of this, Kaido roared angrily and attacked Yang Hao with all his strength. The red lightning formed by Conqueror's Haki frequently exploded in midair. When Yang Hao saw this, the smile on his handsome face did not change. Kaido's analysis is correct. His powerful form cannot be maintained for long. But that was before. Now Yang Hao has been enhanced again. Simply casting the ape god form, or transforming into a moonlion, and strengthening monsters have become almost normal. Unless he uses several forms at the same time. In that case, it is indeed impossible to maintain it for too long, but with that kind of power, even if Kaido resists beatings, he will never be able to last until his form disappears. Of course, Yang Hao would not explain that much to Kaido. Just let him think he is right. Just before he comes to an end, let him also play the role of Teacher Kai and help him master Batang. Thinking of this, Yang Hao smiled slightly. Kaido, I didn't kill you last time, you can't escape this time. There was a bang. Yang Hao's figure, like a rocket, once again faced Kaido. Bang! The collision between the two immediately caused a loud noise. Terrifying aftermath surged out. The terrifying momentum and destruction caused were no worse than the battle between Whitebeard and Blackbeard. As a result, the huge battlefield was divided into a restricted area. Every wave of fluctuations that spread inside made the Emperor's deputy-level expert feel terrified. This Yang Hao is really amazing. I seem to have seen Dad at his peak. But even compared to my father when he was at his peak, Yang Hao is still younger, right? He is simply a monster among monsters. Shinigami Poison Q came to Blackbeard and asked. The next moment, a shocking situation occurred. Superior. Thinking of this, Blackbeard became furious and tried his best to activate Momo's fruit power. Whitebeard held Kong Yunki high and took the lead in the charge. Hearing this, Blackbeard glanced at the surrounding battlefield, and then said in a deep voice, Why are you panic? The participation of the most powerful Sea Emperor in the war cast a shadow on everyone's hearts. The reason why so many members can be gathered now is simply because of his extremely powerful strength and hunting ability, which gives other people the ability to enjoy themselves. So at this moment, their Whitebeard pirates' chances of winning have greatly increased. But because of Yang Hao, he also became panicked. So this time, he absolutely cannot be defeated. Originally betraying Whitebeard, Blackbeard's reputation in the pirate circle was already very bad. But Yang Hao is different. As a top powerhouse, even one of the top powerhouses, he definitely has the power to influence or even dominate the outcome of the war. Marco and others cheered up. As long as they can quickly deal with the Whitebeard pirates, they can turn the situation around. They were just happy that Sabo showed up to help him just now. This time, Yang Hao is here alone. As long as Kaido holds him back, we can get rid of the Whitebeard pirates as soon as possible. By then, together with Kaido, we may be able to keep this guy here forever. Now, our chances of winning have greatly increased. That's for sure, otherwise, Auntie wouldn't have been pulled down by him. They can't escape anymore. On the other hand, the morale of the Blackbeard pirates was greatly reduced. This also gives them a little chance. Fortunately, this time, Yang Hao came alone. Seeing Yang Hao and Kaido fighting, Whitebeard smiled even more. However, when he saw the excited people, he immediately reminded with a stern look on his face. Just because Yang Hao is here to help us doesn't mean we can be lazy. We also need to let him know that there are no weaklings in the Whitebeard pirates. Marco and others echoed loudly, and their figures rushed forward. The ship's doctor of the Blackbeard pirates has always been lifeless and indifferent to everything. Captain, what should I do? Because of Yang Hao, the morale of the Whitebeard pirates has greatly increased. After the war, Yang Hao's reputation has spread all over the world. Now is different from the war on top. If he runs away again, Blackbeard will become a complete joke in the future. Because they know that Sabo's power, even though it has reached the top level of Emperor and Deputy, is still unable to control this kind of top-level war. But if he loses, no one may believe him. In the future, it will be almost impossible to reach a position that is close to the 4 emperors, or to win the One Piece. At the end of the sentence, Blackbeard's face turned ferocious. Chapter 268. Simulating the battle to master Ba Tang. Kaido's trump card. Thanks to Mr. Shingza for the 10,000 reward. The next moment, a shocking situation occurred again. Momo, 30 times the size of a giant, as Blackbeard shouted loudly, his already huge body swelled again. In the blink of an eye, he went from a giant of more than 30 meters to a giant of hundreds of meters. The original Blackbeard was already similar in size to Little Oz of the Whitebeard pirates. At this time, they were already in pursuit of the huge battleship San Juan Wolf. You know, even if it is San Juan Wolf, the ability to use the expanding fruit is only 180 meters away. And now, Blackbeard's size has exceeded half of his. Of course, the bigger the volume, the more powerful it is. People like Lil Oz and San Juan Wolf are suspected of becoming targets in such a battle. Even the evil king of the island fruit is no exception. But when it comes to getting bigger, it also depends on who it is. If Blackbeard gets bigger, it will be very scary. He has mastered Ba Tang, and the bigger it is, the more powerful it is. Just like this moment. Ha 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 ha, go to hell. After Blackbeard turned into a 100-meter giant, he clenched his fist suddenly and blasted towards the Whitebeard pirates. Wherever the fist landed, dark red lightning burst out like a thunderstorm. In addition, there is an effect similar to the ability of the earthquake fruit, causing an impact to sweep across. In just an instant, the Whitebeard pirates were defeated by thousands of people. Among them, there are even some captain-level experts. Seeing this, Blackbeard naturally laughed even more arrogantly. But then, there was no time for him to continue to torture. A short figure came from the air to attack, holding Kong Yunki. There is no doubt that it is Whitebeard. In front of Blackbeard at this time, even Whitebeard looked dwarfed. However, his momentum was extremely astonishing. He waved the Kong Yunki in his hand and unleashed a terrifying slashing wave. Boom! The space was shaken to the point of wailing. Naturally, Whitebeard would not let Blackbeard slaughter his men wantonly, and he would kill them immediately. When Blackbeard saw this, he was not surprised but happy. Well done. He knew very well that the other Whitebeard pirates were basically unimportant. As long as Whitebeard is killed, the Whitebeard pirates will fall apart. At that time, he will be able to lead his men and join forces with Kaido to deal with Yang Hao. In this way, the current crisis can be resolved. Thinking of this, Blackbeard's eyes grew cold, and without saying a word, he punched Whitebeard. Powerful strength, armed color hockey, and conqueror's hockey are included. Not only that, the dark fruit ability also formed black smoke, lingering on the fist. Ever since, when Blackbeard's fist came into contact with Whitebeard's Kongyunch, the energy of the shock fruit on Whitebeard's Kongyunch was instantly more powerful than Blackbeard's dark fruit. Without the blessing of abilities, what the two sides competed with was naturally strength and domineering. In terms of Conqueror's domineering power, Whitebeard is clearly superior. But in terms of armament and strength, Whitebeard was at a disadvantage. So after a shocking loud noise, Whitebeard's figure froze for a moment and then flew backwards. The whole scene looked as if Blackbeard had punched Whitebeard away. Daddy, Marco and others were suddenly shocked again. The people on Blackbeard's side were refreshed. Even Badgers, who was suppressed by Ace and Sabo, burst into laughter. Blackbeard's amazing power instantly gave everyone in the Blackbeard pirates a shot in the arm. The King of Evil, San Juan Wolf, Daju, Xuanyue Hunter and others stopped fishing in troubled waters and started to get serious. All of a sudden, the Whitebeard pirates suffered heavy casualties and were suppressed to death. Whitebeard, who was knocked away, quickly regained his strength and attacked Blackbeard. But at this time, his strength was completely at a disadvantage, so that he could not change the situation of the battle at all. Dark Cave Path. Blackbeard laughed, and when fighting Whitebeard, he did not forget to continue to activate the Dark Fruit ability to deal with other members of the Whitebeard pirates. In less than a moment, the entire Whitebeard pirates were in danger. And another war group, Yang Hao and Kaido, were still fighting fiercely. However, Yang Hao's expression was indifferent, while Kaido's expression became very ugly. "Ahole, what are you doing?" Originally, Kaido wanted to use his terrifying endurance to resist Yang Hao's strength. Who knew that as time passed by, Yang Hao's power had no tendency to decline at all. Not only that, his power gradually became stronger. Especially his Conqueror's Haki. During this period of fighting, they gradually merged into the attack and burst out brazenly. This is a sign that you are learning and gradually mastering bullying. Realizing this, Kaido suddenly realized that Yang Hao seemed to be learning to dominate. If it's just that the strength doesn't decline, then forget it. But the situation of Yang Hao learning to dominate suddenly made Kaido furious again. How much does he look down on himself, that he actually learns to be dominant in the battle with himself? The most important thing is that Yang Hao seems to have learned something. Kaido's eyes widened and he stared at Yang Hao. Conqueror's domineering spirit can indeed be awakened instantly when stimulated. Kaido felt right, he was indeed learning to dominate. Just as Kaido thought, high-level skills like domination cannot be mastered overnight. After all, even if you break through before the battle, the improvement in strength is actually very limited. At this time, Yang Hao couldn't help but smile as he looked at Kaido's shocked look. As a result, when the Blackbeard pirates gained the upper hand, Kaido gradually fell into a disadvantage. Even if he had fought against many top experts, he wouldn't have been able to master it so quickly without instruction, right? Another example is Yang Hao, who owns a simulation system. During this period of time, although he often fought against top powerhouses, such as Big Mom, Kaido, and Sengoku, he also experienced a lot of domination from them. But the high-level skills of Ba Tang cannot be mastered overnight. In this way, not only can you quickly predict the enemy's moves, but you can also master any skills on the spot. So until now, he has conducted a battle simulation on Kaido. This also means that he has officially mastered Ba Tang. Looking at Yang Hao, Kaido's fear increased to the maximum. Looking at Kaido vomiting blood, Yang Hao smiled and then reminded, "Kaido, why don't you use the trump card you brought? Otherwise, you may not have a chance." It's just that this move is rarely used by Yang Hao. There are countless battles between Ba Tang and Ba Tang. Wrong. But what's going on with Yang Hao now? I have said before that if Yang Hao had money, he could actually simulate the battle. Could it be that this kid is still a fighting genius? When facing an enemy, Yang Hao usually has full confidence before he actually takes action in reality. Secondly, few people are worthy of him. That's right, the reason why Yang Hao learned so quickly was because he used the simulation system. In reality, he just fought against Kaido for dozens of rounds. The next moment, the red thunder and lightning around Yang Hao completely merged into his fist, and knocked Kaido away with one punch. First of all, before he encounters a big battle, he will spend all his money as much as possible to increase his power to the extreme. For example, Luffy. But in fact, including simulations, he has fought against Kaido for thousands of rounds. But Yang Hao is not a fighting genius. But Yang Hao did not master the skills of domination. Even if someone teaches me, it can't be that fast. Those that can be mastered quickly are all hanging on the wall. Even among the top experts, not many people master this technique. Upon hearing this, Kaido, who had just gotten up again, was stunned. As a result, Yang Hao's Ba Tang skills naturally improved by leaps and bounds. Chapter 269 Moonlight Moria's Help, Nightmare Kaido. Kaido was stunned when he heard Yang Hao's words. "What did you say?" After coming back to his senses, Kaido's expression became extremely ugly. Yang Hao smiled dumbly and pointed in a certain direction. "Moonlight Moria, didn't you bring him here? Why don't you use that trick?" Hearing this, Kaido's face became even more ugly. He felt like he was seen through by Yang Hao. In fact, he did get a new trump card this time. After all, the enemy this time was Whitebeard, and he didn't dare to take him too lightly. And this new trump card, as Yang Hao said, comes from Moonlight Moria. This matter starts with Kaido's occupation of Dressrosa. After occupying Dressrosa, Kaido also discovered the existence of Moonlight Moria. Moonlight Moria was the person Yang Hao designated to ask for, so Kaido naturally would not let it succeed and deliberately took it off. What makes Kaido a little confused is why Yang Hao specifically asked Doflamingo to capture Moonlight Moria. For this reason, Kaido also asked Moonlight Moria. Of course, Moonlight Moria didn't know about this either. Of course, even if he knew, he would not cooperate with Kaido. In comparison, Moonlight Moria hates Kaido even more. But Kaido quickly figured out Moonlight Moria's weakness and made him submit obediently. Kaido threatened that if Moonlight Moria did not cooperate, he would find Absalom and others and kill them. Helpless, Moonlight Moria had to compromise. It's just that Moonlight Moria really doesn't know Yang Hao's purpose of arresting him. However, this was quickly tested by Kaido. From Kaido's point of view, Yang Hao could not be interested in Moonlight Moria's power. Because the power of Moonlight Moria is not even that of the Emperor's deputy. Judging from the situation of Yang Hao's fierce generals, it is absolutely impossible to win over Moonlight Moria. The only possibility is that Moonlight Moria has what he needs or ability. With this idea, Kaido quickly figured it out. The reason why Yang Hao likes Moonlight Moria should be his shadow ability. To be more precise, it is the gathering place of Moonlight Moria's shadows. This move can put it into an amazing form and greatly increase its strength. This form reminds Kaido of Yang Hao's various power transformations. Knowing this, it is naturally even more impossible for Kaido to hand over Moonlight Moria. Later, he even learned from Moonlight Moria that the shadow gathering move could also be used on others. The principle is very simple. As long as the opponent's shadow has been captured, more shadows can be inserted. And this is exactly the nightmare form that Luffy once entered in the original work. Realizing the existence of the nightmare form, Kaido naturally fully understood the reason why Yang Hao captured Moonlight Moria. After making this discovery, Kaido was pleasantly surprised. All because he suddenly discovered that he not only prevented Yang Hao from strengthening himself, but also obtained a new trump card for himself. This trump card was originally brought by Kaido to deal with Whitebeard, so that he was well prepared. But now that Yang Hao was attacking, he naturally decided to use it on Yang Hao. It's just one thing for him to take the initiative to use it, but it's another thing for Yang Hao to expose it. Why did Yang Hao guess his thoughts all of a sudden? Did Doflamingo betray him? Kaido frowned. Yang Hao was a little dumbfounded. Before this battle of reckoning began, he simulated it many times. It is no exaggeration to say that he clearly knows how many dragon scales Kaido has on his body. How could he not know that Kaido used Moonlight Moria as his trump card? In fact, Yang Hao was really surprised when he discovered this in the simulation at the beginning. But after simulating it many times later, I naturally didn't take it seriously. Any trump card that has lifted the veil of mystery is no longer a threat. And this? Kaido obviously knew that, but now, he was on the verge of an arrow and had no choice but to take action. Yang Hao's strength has never declined, and he also learned how to dominate. In this way, if he continues to fight, it is really possible that he will be beaten to death by the opponent, as Yang Hao said. So now, even if his trump card has been revealed, Kaido can only fight hard. Of course, Kaido is not without confidence. The enhancement of the nightmare form is not static. The greater the quality and quantity of the fused shadows, the stronger the increase in power will be. It would be fine if it were normal times, but on such a battlefield, the quality and quantity of the shadows that Moonlight Moria could collect would not be too bad. Upon thinking of this, Kaido no longer hesitated and immediately let out a roar. Moonlight Moria, use that move quickly. The roar was so loud that it instantly spread across the entire battlefield. Upon hearing this, Whitebeard and Blackbeard were both startled. Others also looked confused. Moonlight Moria, is it the removed 7 warlords of the sea? He's here too, but just now, why didn't you notice it? Just when everyone was confused, in the corner of the battlefield, the King of Evil looked at the 2 figures emerging not far away with some surprise. One of them, like a giant demon, is Moonlight Moria. The other person was a lion-faced monster, and he was Absalom, Moonlight Moria's subordinate. Turned out to be. The aura on his body was like that of an ancient ferocious beast, extremely astonishing. Not only that, the blue dragon scales on his body darkened and turned into a strange black. But then, something happened that Moonlight Moria never expected. It's a pity that Yang Hao has seen it in advance. However, Moonlight Moria is not as cooperative as Kaido appears to be. At the same time, his eyes had a dark eyeliner. After the figure appeared, Moonlight Moria's face was full of reluctance, but she still waved her right hand. Even the Blackbeard pirates don't know this, but the most shocking thing is Moonlight Moria. Moonlight Moria did collect a lot of shadows here. When everyone saw this, they couldn't help but be shocked. In an instant, a black torrent rushed towards Kaido. The body surface is covered with dark and shiny dragon scales, and the muscles all over the body bulge exaggeratedly. Especially after Blackbeard worked hard, he also collected a lot of shadows of captain-level experts. All because all the shadows he released were actually absorbed by Kaido. Just as Kaido thought. As for the Whitebeard pirates, they naturally know nothing about it. It would be best if Kaido could be directly burst. The originally huge body began to grow visibly to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, the half-dragon Kaido turned into a giant more than 10 meters tall. As the black torrent surges forward, it takes on irregular shapes one after another, like a beating river. Beyond that, there's Absalom. The role of Absalom is to use the transparent fruit to assist Moonlight Moria to silently collect shadows. The moment the black torrent reached his body, Kaido's body was shaken. When he tested Kaido's nightmare form before, he tried hundreds and hundreds of times to get the opponent to fuse. The already terrifying momentum suddenly increased steadily, reaching a shocking level. As a result, one can imagine the consequences when Kaido reveals his trump card. Kaido can only be exposed directly, but this time, not only did he select high-quality shadows, but the number even reached over 1,000. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Moonlight Moria planned to trick Kai more. Moonlight Moria never expected that her actions would really help Kaido. Here, he made a trick. In fact, that is exactly the phenomenon of a large number of shadows struggling. Kaido had long brought Moonlight Moria to Beehive Island. Just looking at such a nightmare Kaido makes people feel terrified. Chapter 270 Yang Hao's own Nika form. What a delightful power. Feeling the explosive power coming from his body at this moment, Kaido suddenly grinned and laughed. This feeling was just like when he first obtained the Azure Dragon Fruit. That is a kind of omnipotent power. Moonlight Moria, thank you. Kaido turned his head and gave a sinister laugh to Moonlight Moria. In fact, he was not unaware of Moonlight Moria's little moves, he just pretended not to know. Because Moonlight Moria's move was exactly what he wanted. During the previous test, Kaido discovered that he could fuse more shadows. Even more than Moonlight Moria, a shadow ability user. Kaido was a little confused at first, but he soon figured it out. The key to merging shadows lies in spirit and will. Moonlight Moria has long been useless in this regard. Ever since he was defeated by himself, he has become depressed. Of course, the number of fused shadows for him is not as good as his own. After thinking about this, Kaido naturally allowed Moonlight Moria to do what he wanted. And the current situation. Just as he expected, Moonlight Moria is indeed making small moves, trying to explode herself with more shadows. But in this way, he just entered an unprecedentedly powerful nightmare form. Moonlight Moria's face instantly turned livid. The people around him looked at Kaido with strong shock. At this time, Kaido is not as big as Blackbeard, but his momentum is much more amazing than Blackbeard. What kind of trick is this? Why does Kaido seem to have become so much stronger? This aura is too scary. What has he done? Everyone in Marco had their expressions condensed. Even Whitebeard had a hint of fear. Kaido's momentum at this time even reminded him of his former Captain Rock's. That guy also has such an amazing momentum. It gives people a feeling of unfathomable power. Kaido was obviously very satisfied with his strength at this time, with a smile on his face. But then, when he looked at Yang Hao, his smile couldn't help but condense. Huh, you seem to be very calm. Kaido looked at Yang Hao, his face gradually turned cold. When he thought of his nightmare form being predicted by Yang Hao in advance, he frowned. However, Yang Hao probably doesn't know about his power after entering the nightmare form. Thinking of this, Kaido regained his confidence. Yang Hao, I hope you can still pretend like that after a while. As soon as the words fell, Kaido turned into a huge black shadow and attacked Yang Hao. Roaring Thunder 8 trigrams. Kaido roared angrily and smashed out the mace in his hand again. It's just that this time, the momentum is completely different from before. The terrifying power instantly caused the space to collapse, red thunder flashed, and domineering power surged. Yang Hao's expression changed, and he also punched out. Ape God Spear. His punch was equally astonishing. Fiery flames, dark red lightning. There was also an invisible impact. But compared with Kaido's, Yang Hao's momentum fell behind. Ever since, under the gaze of everyone, amidst the loud noise, Yang Hao's figure froze for a moment before he was violently beaten away by Kaido. Bang! Yang Hao's figure hit the ground, stirring up a lot of smoke and dust, making him a little more embarrassed. Immediately afterwards, before Yang Hao could stand up, Kaido's huge figure fell from the sky again. Zhang Sanshi Yinaraku. The mace in Kaido's hand was wrapped in rich red thunder and struck down hard again. In a trance, it was like the arrival of the Thunder God. Boom! At this moment, the entire Beehive Island was shaken. The evil king on the other side wiped his hands with cold sweat and secretly became afraid. At this time, he had already restrained his island fruit ability and purely used physical strength to fight against the enemy. No way. It's really not suitable now. Forget about the fight between Blackbeard and Whitebeard. Now there are Kaido and Yang Hao. The aftermath of the battle between the two almost swept across the entire island. He can bear such aftermath once or twice, but he won't be able to withstand more. Especially now. As Kaido struck down with his stick, the whole earth cracked. Countless smoke and dust surged like bullets. Yang Hao's figure was knocked away again. Haha, Yang Hao, how are you? How is my power? Bang, bang, bang. Every time Kaido speaks a word, he will launch a terrifying attack. Under his astonishing offensive, Yang Hao seemed to be completely at a disadvantage. Seeing this, everyone in the Whitebeard Pirates group felt their hearts sink. As Blackbeard began to go all out, their situation became precarious. If even Yang Hao cannot defeat Kaido, the consequences will be disastrous. But just as everyone was thinking this, the battle situation on the field changed again. Yang Hao was knocked away again, but he got up from the ground, slowly wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and showed a smile. Kaido, is this your trump card? It really disappoints me. What? Kaido was startled when he heard Yang Hao's words. Then he became furious. Stop pretending, fall down for me. Kaido roared again, wrapped in the terrifying conquerors, and attacked Yang Hao. Yang Hao took out a breath. Then a thought came to my mind. At this moment, an astonishing change appeared on his body again. The first is the panel, which suddenly turns light red. And in the golden aura all over his body, there is a bit more white steam. Immediately afterwards, another light blue arc appeared in the white air. At the same time, his hair and eyebrows began to turn snow white. Then it extended and became longer, draped behind it like a hedgehog. Yang Hao's momentum also began to rise steadily, even reaching a point where it was even more amazing than Kaido. The surrounding ground seemed unable to withstand his momentum and began to crack inch by inch. Everyone nearby was shocked when they saw this. Kaido's pupils narrowed. There is no doubt that Yang Hao at this time is based on the Super Saiyan God form, and has added heart strengthening and Moon Lion transformation. At this moment, at first glance, he seemed to have entered the form of Nika. After taking a look at his current appearance, Yang Hao suddenly felt like this. Oh, do I also have my own Nika form? Yang Hao chuckled secretly, and then looked at Kaido who was attacking. However, if he was Nika, then it would be normal for Kaido to lose at his hands. Ape God. Gun. This time, facing the attacking Kaido, Yang Hao punched out again. Only this time, his attack power reached an incredible level. With one punch, as if it contained all things, flames, static electricity, red thunder, black light, and invisible waves burst out at the same time. Kaido's eyes widened instantly and he was stunned. As Yang Hao punched out, in a daze, he seemed to see a giant ape shadow rising behind Yang Hao, roaring towards him. Chapter 271 White Ape Phantom? Kaido's defeat. How is that possible? Kaido's eyes widened. Yang Hao punched out, which not only erupted with terrifying elemental fluctuations, but also erupted with a huge white ape shadow. That huge white ape shadow is even bigger than him now. Crushed like a mountain, Kaido discovered that his power was so unbearable. Unexpectedly, he couldn't resist it for even a second, and then his body flew out with a bang. Boom! Kaido smashed directly into the crowd of Blackbeard pirates. Along the way, people turned over and their horses turned over, stirring up countless smoke and dust. Ah! Countless people screamed and wailed, and even if it was just the aftermath, the Blackbeard pirates lost hundreds to thousands of people. Kaido was beaten away. What's going on? Blackbeard and others were shocked. In the crowd, Moonlight Moria's eyes lit up. The last thing he wanted to see was Kaido looking proud and arrogant. Now that I see Kaido deflated, I feel so happy. Then Moonlight Moria looked at Yang Hao, his eyes flickering. By now, he naturally understood why Yang Hao sent Doflamingo to arrest him. Obviously, they have the same idea as Kaido, they all want to plot his shadow gathering place. However, now it seems that if you work for Yang Hao, it doesn't seem so unbearable. It is worth mentioning that at this time, Moonlight Moria had become sober after experiencing successive failures. It is unlikely that he can compete with those strong ones for One Piece. Compared to Whitebeard Kaido, he can't. Compared to Yang Hao, Luffy and other powerful men of the new era, he is no better. This situation of not being enough compared to the top and not enough compared to the bottom made Moonlight Moria understand that he had completely lost the possibility of competing for One Piece. He probably won't be able to do One Piece in this life. However, with his ability, he may be able to join a certain force and help others become One Piece. In this way, his men can also be protected. Moonlight Moria knew very well that after today's battle, even if he wanted to retire, it would be impossible. This move of shadow gathering will make him become a being that many strong men compete for. Needless to say about the others, Yang Hao would definitely not let him go. So, what should he do? Looking at the powerful white figure from Dao Dao, Guang Moria suddenly made a decision. And this time, after Yang Hao punched Kaido away, his figure suddenly flashed and disappeared. A brush sound. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of Kaido. He has long white hair, a stern face, and a strong aura. After entering this form, his speed reached an incredible level. Even if Kizaru were here, he would probably be reduced to a younger brother. Kaido was obviously shocked by the speed of Yang Hao's explosion, and his expression changed wildly. At this time, he had just gotten up from the ground, but his figure became even more embarrassed than Yang Hao just now. Blood kept flowing from the corners of his mouth. However, seeing Yang Hao's attack, Kaido reacted quickly and swung the mace. Go to hell. Bang, bang, bang. Kaido's mace is also packed with amazing power and keeps swinging. But Yang Hao's figure was erratic, like a white ghost, easily dodging all Kaido's attacks. Boom boom boom. The horrific aftermath shattered the earth. But there was a touch of cold sweat on Kaido's forehead. His haki of knowledge is actually so powerful that he can predict the next few seconds, which is comparable to Katakuri. But what shocked Kaido was that even if he predicted Yang Hao's hiding position, he couldn't hit Yang Hao. Yang Hao's speed is too fast, so much so that every time he dodges, he changes the future. A hole, you can only hide. After being dodged dozens of times, Kaido couldn't help roaring. Conqueror's domineering energy turned into dark red lightning and burst out, but it had no effect on Yang Hao. But the next second, Yang Hao curled his lips and stopped abruptly. Originally, I wanted you to live for a while longer, but since you are in a hurry to die, then I will help you. It is worth mentioning that Yang Hao's current form is exactly the form he used to be Quinn before. It's just that Quinn can't stand to fight. When Yang Hao opened this form before, he couldn't bear it within a short while. So at this time, Yang Hao was not in a hurry to kill Kaido, but wanted to get familiar with him first. However, Kaido was anxious to be abused, so he naturally would not refuse. As Yang Hao stopped, the white shadows in the sky suddenly condensed into one. Kaido perked up and quickly grabbed his mace and rushed over. Jundali Long Shengjun. This time, Kaido waved the mace crazily. In an instant, a dense round of stick shadows formed, blocking all Yang Hao's room for escape. The terrifying Conqueror's domineering energy burst out into red thunder, turning the area more than 10 meters in front of Yang Hao into a restricted area. Boom boom boom. The air was blown. However, when Yang Hao saw this, he still stood there, just making fists with both hands and blasting lightly. In an instant, his fists turned into afterimages, wrapped in flames, static electricity, red thunder, and terrifying impacts, bursting out. Bang bang bang. Two extremely terrifying attacks collided violently. Shocking loud noises, one after another. Conqueror's domineering, ready-made red thunder allows for unprecedented collisions. Soon, Kaido felt the huge pressure like a mountain front again. As Yang Hao took action, the phantom of the white ape appeared again, waving its fists as well. What? Kaido was shocked, and suddenly a burst of empty fists came. It turned out to be his mace weapon, but it was blown apart by Yang Hao's fist. The next second, a fist that seemed as small as a mountain magnified in front of Kaido's eyes. Bang! Kaido vomited blood crazily, and his huge figure was directly lifted into the sky. How can it be so powerful? People were in midair. Kaido couldn't help but feel a little dazed. With the blessing of the nightmare form, his current power is definitely beyond the level of the four emperors. But what he never expected was that despite this, he could not compare to Yang Hao. How did this monster cultivate? But the next second, the shock on Kaido's face turned into ferociousness. Lousy as Kaido, how could he lose to such a young boy? Kaido roared crazily in his heart, and his whole figure changed crazily. In the blink of an eye, a huge black dragon measuring 1,000 meters appeared in midair. The black dragon's eyes quickly locked onto Yang Hao's figure, and then he fell down like a meteor. Try this move, Yang Hao, this is my strongest attack. Rising Dragon Flame 8 trigrams. The dark dragon's body surface instantly showed the color of magma, and then, the terrifying conqueror's domineering energy condensed on the dragon's head, launching the strongest impact. In a daze, it seemed as if there really was a huge meteorite falling from the sky. When Yang Hao saw this, he just twitched the corner of his mouth, and his figure shot towards the sky under the influence of Wukong technique. He clenched his right fist and began to silently accumulate strength. The arms Sakura, conqueror's domineering spirit, and the terrifying physical power. The next second, when Yang Hao punched out, thunder and fire appeared. The phantom of the white ape seemed to have turned into a physical entity, rushing out of the thunder and fire. This is also Yang Hao's strongest attack at this time. This blow is destined to attract the attention of thousands of people. The members of the Whitebeard Pirates and the Blackbeard Pirates subconsciously stopped and looked at the sky at this time. I saw a man and a dragon colliding together in the sky. Amidst the loud and shocking noise, a shock wave visible to the naked eye swept away, and even the space showed signs of collapse. Yang Hao's figure was so small compared with the 1,000-meter black dragon. But the next second, the 1,000-meter black dragon was shaken, and its body began to retreat. Then it could no longer stop retreating, and was directly knocked away. The whole scene looked like a white stream of light transformed by Yang Hao, breaking through the red and black dim sky. Since then, the situation of pirates has begun to change. Chapter 272 The Black Group Escapes, Yang Hao's Recruitment. Boom! The heaven and earth shook violently. In the terrifying aftermath, the 1,000-meter-long dragon body was thrown away in the high air. Shadows floated away from Kaido's dragon body. The nightmare form began to dissipate. Kaido's breath dropped to the extreme in the blink of an eye. Even the dragon body couldn't maintain it and turned back into human form. Bang! Soon, there was another loud noise. Kaido's body hit the ground, forming a big crater. Inside the pit, Kaido lost consciousness. The scenes from his lifetime turned into a revolving lantern flashing rapidly before his eyes. War, battle, defeat, victory, defeat. His whole life seemed to have been spent in war. Nowadays, dying in battle seems to be the best destination. Finally, as if something suddenly occurred to him, Kaido looked at Yang Hao in midair and asked, "Hey, are you Joey Boy?" Hearing this, Yang Hao was startled, then laughed. "What do you think?" A smile appeared on Kaido's lips, as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't say it after all. His eyes slowly closed, and the aura on his body completely disappeared. 100 beasts, Kaido has fallen since then. At this moment, the entire battlefield fell into silence. Everyone looked here in shock, speechless for a moment. Although Yang Hao had beaten Kaido during the war, everyone was shocked when they saw Kaido really die in Yang Hao's hands. This is Kaido, the strongest creature on land, sea and air. It is actually not unusual for Kaido to be defeated. But it is not easy to kill Kaido. Otherwise, Kaido would not have the title of the strongest creature on land, sea and air. It's because he couldn't be killed that he gradually gained this title. But now, Kaido has really died at the hands of Yang Hao. Marco and others were shocked, but they all showed joy. As for Blackbeard and the others, their expressions naturally changed greatly. Kaido is dead. This Yang Hao, incredible. The ordinary members of the Blackbeard Pirates suddenly showed fear. I was originally very angry, but I was completely defeated. The cadres also looked solemn. As soon as Kaido died, their side immediately fell into a disadvantage. And what follows seems to confirm this. When Yang Haokong took action, the Blackbeard Pirates immediately encountered disaster. At this time, his strength is much stronger than that of the top war, and he is faster at this time, moving like a white meteor. And when the white meteor transformed by Yang Hao rushed into the Blackbeard Pirates, it instantly caused countless casualties. Not to mention Fan Oka and others, even cadres such as Daju, Zanyu Hunter, and even the king of evil government are not Yang Hao's enemies. These guys are pretty smart too. Among them, Zhan Yu Hunter immediately turned into an ordinary pirate, fishing in troubled waters. As for the king of evil, he no longer dares to integrate the island fruits, and only plays soy sauce on the side. There is also San Juan Wolf. Originally, he used the expansion fruit to transform into a 180-meter shattering giant and swept across the battlefield. But since seeing Kaido's death, he immediately returned to his original size and shrank as much as possible in a corner of the battlefield, for fear of attracting Yang Hao's attention. None of these people took action, so naturally no one at the scene could stop Yang Hao. As for Blackbeard, at this time, he was still held back by Whitebeard. Damn. 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 Seeing the situation of the battle being reversed, Blackbeard cursed in his heart. A look of panic could not be concealed on his face after all. The original Blackbeard had a desperate plan, but now, with Kaido dead, he couldn't help but have the idea of escape. No way. Although he would become a joke after escaping, at least he survived. If he doesn't escape, he will really die here. Blackbeard can bend and stretch, and he will naturally make choices. Ever since. The next moment, after Blackbeard winked at Badgers and several other old subordinates, he punched Whitebeard open. Momo 30 times speed. Blackbeard's huge figure suddenly changed back to its original shape, then sped up and turned into a black shadow, escaping into the distance. But at this moment, Whitebeard chased after him and punched him. Teach, you want to escape now, don't you think it's too late? With a bang, the space collapsed. Blackbeard's escape speed was immediately greatly affected. Damn old guy. Blackbeard gritted his teeth and his heart sank. At the same time, Bajas and other cadres also began to flee. Shinigami Poison Q gets on the horse. Lafitte also flew up. Yang Hao, what do you want to say? Hearing this, the evil king was startled, and then his expression turned strange. His ability is only to bully people at the level of emperor and deputy and below. All because they are not truly loyal to Blackbeard. Hearing the call, the evil king's eyes flashed and he stopped where he was. Almost as soon as Blackbeard turned around and ran away, they also ran away. The evil king's ability may seem powerful, but in fact, it does not pose much of a threat to the top powerhouses. Looking at the vigilant king of evil, Yang Hao had a smile on his lips. Any top powerhouse can easily defeat him. However, the opponent's island ability is quite practical, so Yang Hao plans to recruit it. However, Daju, the king of evil and others moved faster. In other words, no matter who can do this, they can gain their allegiance. In this case, it is better to see what Yang Hao has to say first. But he quickly came to his senses. After thinking about this, the evil king suddenly smiled. He knew that with his speed, it would be difficult to escape when Yang Hao targeted him. And this is indeed Yang Hao's idea. He reacted almost quickly and chased in one direction. Yang Hao was not surprised by this. This direction is not Blackbeard, but the king of evil. Compared to killing yourself, if you can make yourself effective, it can indeed be of greater use. So, Yang Hao said directly, this rotten ship of the Blackbeard pirates is not suitable for you. How about joining my 10,000 Beasts pirates? Of course, he was not unprepared. He had secretly activated his abilities and was ready to assimilate the island and fight back at any time. Now that disaster is approaching, they naturally fly away. The king of evil looked at Yang Hao. The reason why they are loyal to Blackbeard is simply to find a backer to avoid being hunted by marine and world government. He wants to destroy the Blackbeard pirates, Badgers, Shinigami Poison Q, etc. He cannot keep them, but Daju, the king of evil and others can naturally stay. That's right, it's solicitation. Hearing this, Yang Hao also smiled. Originally, the Blackbeard pirates were not very cohesive. I don't seem to have a reason to refuse. Moreover, after escaping to the sea, as a user with the island fruit ability, he completely lost his ability to resist. He did not expect that Yang Hao was not here to hunt him down, but to recruit him? Yang Hao called out and came to the sky above the king of evil. Avaro Pizarro, I have something to talk to you about. Chapter 273. Surrender one after another, the black group defeated the white group and won. At this moment, Yang Hao also smiled. Talking to smart people saves trouble. There is no doubt that the evil king is a smart man. Of course, this is not surprising. As mentioned before, it doesn't matter who the evil king works for, as long as he can protect him. Besides, if the evil king doesn't agree, he may die in the hands of Yang Hao. Being able to save his life and find a new and stronger backer, the evil king really had no reason to refuse. Let's do it, stop them all, don't let anyone escape. Yang Hao then gave instructions to the king of evil government. In fact, in addition to wanting to recruit the evil king, Zhan Yu Hunter and others also didn't intend to let him go. And the reason why he was the first to recruit the evil king was also because of his ability. Hearing Yang Hao's words, the evil king suddenly understood, and his figure suddenly sank into the ground. The next second, boom, the whole island shook. Earthen walls and hills rose from everywhere, surrounding the battlefield. As the cadres began to flee, the ordinary members of the Blackbeard pirates naturally also fled. But before they could escape from the battlefield, they were surrounded. What? Is this the power of the evil king? What is he doing? The pirates were horrified, and some of them looked even more horrified when they recognized the people who had been killed by the evil king. In addition to ordinary members, the cadres soon turned pale. Because not only the ordinary members, but also them were intercepted. Even Lafitte, who was flying in the air, had a huge hand in front of him to intercept him. The king of evil, a-hole, what are you doing? Get out of here, lousy. Immediately, some people roared, some reprimanded, and some silently smashed the earthen walls and hills. Seeing this, Yang Hao nodded with satisfaction and then flew out. Everyone in the Blackbeard Pirates has special skills. Under such circumstances, even he dare not say that he is sure that he can intercept everyone. Especially Zhan Yu Hunter, her Nine-Tails Fox ability allows her to easily blend into the crowd and escape. But now with the help of the evil king, it is no longer a problem. Yang Hao's figure flashed out, and soon he came to a shocking giant with a height of 180 meters. There is no doubt that it is San Juan Wolf. At this time, due to the interception of the evil king, he had no choice but to activate his ability again and directly crashed into the hill. But before he could continue to run away, Yang Hao appeared in front of him with an indifferent expression. San Juan Wolf suddenly stopped and was sweating. The huge size of the mountain did not bring him the slightest sense of security. Fortunately, Yang Hao did not take action against him, but said directly, "The king of evil has taken refuge in me. How did you choose? Whether he is beaten to death directly by me, or he does things for me." Upon hearing this, San Juan Wolf was stunned. He looked honest, but he was actually a smart man. He immediately knelt down on one knee and said, "Boss Yang Hao, please give me your advice in the future." Yang Hao nodded, and then ordered, "You join forces with the king of evil, and join the Blackbeard Pirates." San Juan Wolf naturally nodded quickly. With his help, it is naturally even more impossible for the Blackbeard Pirates to escape. Soon, Daju also expressed his surrender to Yang Hao. There is no other way. If you don't surrender, you will die. Who can withstand it? They were not really loyal to Blackbeard in the first place, so they switched to the family without hesitation. After subduing the three evil kings, Yang Hao continued to look for traces of Zhan Yu Hunter. But what made Yang Hao funny was what happened next. As soon as he subdued Daju, Zhan Yu Hunter appeared on his own initiative. A male pirate with a rough face suddenly transformed into a Zhan Yu Hunter and walked quickly towards Yang Hao. Yang Hao was startled, and Xuanyue Hunter immediately knelt down on one knee. "Boss Yang Hao, I am willing to serve you." After coming back to his senses, Yang Hao suddenly burst into laughter. "You are quite smart." In the simulation, Yang Hao did not simulate the situation of subduing the evil king and others. After all, in his opinion, after defeating the Blackbeard Pirates, subduing the evil king and others is not a problem at all, so there is no need to waste money on special simulations. And in fact, it is indeed the case. The whole process went much smoother than Yang Hao imagined. Especially Xuanyue Hunter. I originally thought that it would take a lot of effort to find this female pirate who could completely transform into someone else. Unexpectedly, she showed up on her own initiative. Now it seems that she is also a smart person. What Zhan Yu Hunter didn't know was that her move saved her life. In fact, among the several pirate cadres who later joined the gang, Yang Hao only valued the King of Evil and San Juan Wolf. As for Daju and Xuanyue Hunter, they are actually dispensable. If Daju and Xuanyue Hunter really required him to put in a lot of effort to find them, Yang Hao might lose his patience. Especially Zhan Yu Hunter, if she never shows up, Yang Hao doesn't mind killing all the ordinary members of the Blackbeard Pirates. If Zhan Yu Hunter showed up like that, Yang Hao would not spare her life. But now it seems that since Zhan Yu Hunter is sensible enough, Yang Hao naturally doesn't mind sparing her life. Although the fruit ability of September Fox is a bit useless, it might come in handy at some point. And as the evil king and others surrendered to Yang Hao, the Blackbeard Pirates' defeat was naturally completely unstoppable. Even without the defection of the evil king and others, the Blackbeard Pirates would have been unable to recover, not to mention that after the evil king and others surrendered to Yang Hao, they turned their heads to deal with the Blackbeard Pirates. The first person to be killed was Badgers, the captain of the #1 ship of the Blackbeard Pirates. He was besieged by Ace and Sabo, and was already at a disadvantage. With Kaido's defeat and the defeat of the Blackbeard Pirates, Ace and Sabo seized the opportunity and killed him suddenly, and finally fell into a sea of fire. And Lafitte. Originally, he temporarily separated from Marco and wanted to escape, but was stopped by the evil king's island palm. Marco then chased after him and joined forces with the king of evil to kill Lafitte. As for Leaka, the sniper, Xuanyue Hunter waited for an opportunity to get close and killed him from behind. Then there's Poison Q. There is no doubt that the Whitebeard Pirates won this battle of reckoning. The victory in the battle refreshed Marco and others' spirits. But the next second, Ace's frightened cry sounded. "Dad!" Marco and the others were startled, looked in a certain direction, and their expressions suddenly changed wildly. "Dad! Daddy! I saw Whitebeard's figure standing in front of Blackbeard." At this time, Blackbeard had fallen into a pool of blood, with no breath at all. He tried to escape just now, but failed, and was intercepted by Whitebeard. In a short period of time, the two of them fought desperately. In the end, Blackbeard showed his flaws and was killed by Whitebeard. However, at this time, Whitebeard was standing there leaning on Kong Yunki, with bloodstains on his body, and his aura had declined to the extreme, exuding the aura of death. Seeing this, the whole place fell into silence again. When Yang Hao saw this, his expression was silent. He knew that Whitebeard was going to die. Chapter 274 The Death of Whitebeard, the disbandment of the Whitebeard Pirates. Yang Hao knew that Whitebeard was going to die. This is the result of his simulation. This result has not changed even if Yang Hao simulated it several times. As for the reason, it actually has nothing to do with Blackbeard. In fact, even before the war, Whitebeard's body was already riddled with injuries. The hidden wounds in youth erupted in old age and became serious illnesses. And this is also the reason why Whitebeard is covered with bottles all over his body. It is actually quite remarkable for such a white beard to be able to participate in the war on the top. In the original work, Whitebeard died in the war on top. But because of Yang Hao's existence, this ending was changed. But he changed the outcome of the war on the top, but he couldn't change Whitebeard's physical condition. Therefore, even if Whitebeard does not participate in the battle of liquidation after the war, his life will not be long. But now, he is just pouring his last light and heat into this battle of reckoning. After killing Blackbeard, Whitebeard's life also entered its final stage. Dad. A blue flame-flying bird rushed over and landed suddenly next to Whitebeard. It was Marco. As soon as Marco's figure fell, he immediately waved out a large amount of immortal flames, covering Whitebeard's body. However, although his immortal flames restored the wounds on Whitebeard's body, it could not suppress Whitebeard's gradually declining vitality. Dad. Marco's eyes were filled with tears. Marco. Whitebeard murmured weakly. Don't be sad, it's better to die on the battlefield than to fall on a hospital bed. Everyone around was looking at this side with sad expressions. At this moment, another flame flew over, but it was Ace. At this time, Ace's eyes were also wet. Whitebeard showed a smile. Ace. Dad. Am I still qualified as a father? Certainly. Ace burst into tears. Whitebeard smiled and died with a smile on his face. Dad. The members of the Whitebeard Pirates suddenly burst out into astonishing shouts. Countless people cried in sorrow. When Yang Hao saw this, his expression became a little gloomy. There is no doubt that Whitebeard's personality charm is very powerful. It has to be said that the end of such a character is a great regret for the pirate world. At this point, the battle of liquidation is completely over. The Blackbeard Pirates were all wiped out, but the Whitebeard Pirates also paid a heavy price. In addition to a lot of casualties, Whitebeard, the captain, also died on the battlefield. To say that the biggest winner in this battle of reckoning is naturally Yang Hao. He didn't lose anything, but gained several powerful subordinates. Next, he did not leave, but attended Whitebeard's funeral. The funeral was held on Whitebeard's home island. Marco, Ace and others specially brought Whitebeard's body here for burial. After getting the message, the red hair came again. The funeral was simple, and there was an extra tomb on the hillside surrounded by flowers. On the tomb, there are clouds cutting diagonally there. Marco, Ace and others cried sadly again. Yang Hao, Sabo, Hongfa and others stood aside with serious faces. As for the evil king and others, they were all taken into the castle earrings by Yang Hao. After all, the king of evil and others can be considered Blackbeard's accomplices, so it is naturally not easy for them to appear here. After spending half a day, the funeral was finally over. After the funeral, Marco, Ace and others entertained Yang Hao and Hongfa for dinner. At the dinner table, the red-haired man suddenly asked Marco and Ace, Marco, Ace, what are your plans for the future? Hearing this, Marco, Ace and other captains all had expressions on their faces. Now that Whitebeard is dead, the Whitebeard Pirates are actually dead in name only. Is the Whitebeard Pirates still the Whitebeard Pirates without Whitebeard? Marco, Josie and others looked gloomy. Ace, on the other hand, suddenly said excitedly, we will continue to be active on the sea under the name of the Whitebeard Pirates. But his words did not receive a response from Marco and others. Ace was startled and looked at Marco and the others in confusion. Marco's face was as dark as water, and then he said to Ace, Ace, before Dad went to find Blackbeard, he already told me about the future arrangements. What? Quite the opposite. And if they are not disbanded, Marco and others will naturally have to compete with other pirate groups for these territories. Not to mention the successive pirates Supernova and the ambitious 7 warlords of the sea. So, can he also take the opportunity to recruit? What? As for why I didn't tell Ace, it was probably because Ace was young and energetic and was afraid that he would do something extreme. But now it seems that the disbandment of the Whitebeard Pirates is still inevitable. In fact, Whitebeard had already told them this, it just so happens that they still have a lot of territory under their name. Thinking of this, Yang Hao's mind became excited. Yang Hao, who had been listening quietly beside him, felt something move in his heart. Without Whitebeard, there will definitely be people snatching these territories. Immediately afterwards, Marco continued in a deep voice. Dad said that after he leaves, the Whitebeard Pirates will be disbanded. When Whitebeard disbanded the Whitebeard Pirates, did he just ignore Ace and others? Originally, he thought that after Whitebeard died, Marco, Ace and others would continue sailing as the Whitebeard pirates. And obviously, Whitebeard's worry is necessary. For Whitebeard's funeral, he did not simulate it. Ace came back to his senses, his face turned red and said, "Impossible, how could Dad disband the Whitebeard pirates? He won't leave us alone." In fact, Whitebeard made this decision precisely for the sake of Marco, Ace and others. But if the Whitebeard pirates are disbanded, these problems will disappear. And there are those who have been defeated by Whitebeard. At that time, I might also cause trouble for Marco and others. The Whitebeard pirates without Whitebeard are obviously no longer enough to be called the Four Emperors. Those territories are no longer relevant to them, and those who want to cause trouble for Whitebeard will most likely not come to Marco, Ace and others again. Ace suddenly stood up. After Marco's explanation, Ace finally understood, and tears filled his eyes again. But without Whitebeard, they obviously wouldn't be able to compete with the other Four Emperors groups. So the situation at this time also surprised him. To put it simply, Whitebeard is disbanding the Whitebeard pirates, not regardless of them, but for their sake. Hearing this, Yang Hao and Hongfa were not too surprised. They naturally lack the power to intimidate people like this. Ace was stunned when he heard this. "Ace, Dad wants us to live well, do you understand?" As for Josie, Bist and others, they didn't react much, they obviously knew what Marco was going to say. Josie, Bist and others looked sad. Chapter 275 Recruiting the White Group, the biggest winner in the Battle of Liquidation. This moment, Yang Hao's mind became excited. He suddenly discovered that not only could he recruit the Evil King and others, but he might also be able to recruit Marco and others under his command. After all, after the Whitebeard pirates disbanded, it was impossible for Marco, Ace and others to retire directly. If a new pirate group is not established, then the best way is for them to join other pirate groups. But as Marco and others are former members of the White Group, the ordinary pirate group is obviously not qualified to accept them. Therefore, if Marco and others want to join the pirate group, they must at least be at the imperial level. And now, Kaido is dead, and he and the red hair are the only ones left among the Four Emperors. In other words, if Marco and others want to join the pirate group, they have to choose between him and the red hair. Thinking of this, Yang Hao suddenly understood that the red-haired question just now should also have the intention of soliciting. However, Yang Hao was not worried, because he had a great advantage compared to the red hair. Red hair and white beard have a competitive relationship, but he and white beard have a cooperative relationship. And this time in the liquidation battle, he came to help for free. This favor gave him a huge advantage, and what happened next was exactly what happened. When the topic came to this point, the red hair immediately said, "Ace, it seems that Whitebeard is also worried about you. If you don't plan to establish a pirate group, you can join my pirate group. You are all welcome to us." The red-haired man's eyes especially fell on Ace. Looking at Ace, there is always a smile in his eyes. He didn't know Ace's identity before, but now that he knows Ace is Roger's son, the red-haired man is naturally more interested in Ace. It would be great if the captain's son could get on his ship. However, the redhead was destined to be disappointed. It is precisely because of this relationship that Ace is unwilling to get close to the redhead. Upon hearing the red-haired invitation, Ace shook his head without thinking and said in a low voice, "Shanks, just join your pirate group." Although the red-haired man was kind to Luffy, Ace was obviously repulsive because of Roger's relationship. The red-haired man suddenly looked disappointed, and then he turned to Marco and the others. "What about you? What are your plans? Do you want to join my pirate group?" In fact, it is actually impossible for Marco and others to establish a pirate group. After all, continuing to sail under the name of the Whitebeard Pirates is equivalent to establishing a pirate group. But now that Whitebeard has taken the initiative to disband them, it is naturally impossible for them to establish a new pirate group. So the only way for them in the future is to join other pirate groups or simply become loners. But the latter is unlikely. This situation naturally brings the hope of recruitment to the red hair. There are many talents in the Whitebeard Pirates, especially the captain, any one of them is a strong person. But next, the red-haired man was disappointed again. Facing his invitation, Marco and others looked at each other and did not respond. Seeing this situation, the red-haired man became even more disappointed. Yang Hao perked up. If Ace, Marco and others reject the red hair, his chances will become great. At that moment, he did not hesitate and said directly, "Marco, Ace, if you don't want to go, you can consider my 10,000 beasts pirates." Saying this, before Ace, Marco and others could reply, Yang Hao looked at a man wearing a kimono who looked like a woman and said, "By the way, Izo, you are from the country of Wano, right? The country of Wano is my territory, do you want to go home and take a look? One more thing to tell you, my wife is Kazuki Hiyori." This man who looks like a woman is Izo, the captain of the 16th Division of the Whitebeard Pirates. Hearing Yang Hao's words, Yi Zhang was startled for a moment, then perked up. What? Kazuki Hiyori? Ms. Hiyori, of course, Izo knew that Wano country was occupied by Yang Hao. It's just that he didn't have time to pay attention to his previous participation in the war on top and the current battle of liquidation. Originally, Izo had planned to find Yang Hao to inquire about the situation in Wano country after finishing his busy work for a while. What he didn't expect was that Yang Hao would take the initiative to talk to him now. What he didn't expect even more was that Yang Hao would actually marry Kazuki Hiyori. Although he is a member of the Whitebeard Pirates, Izo has never forgotten his identity as Kazuki's retainer. Now when I heard Yang Hao suddenly speak, I was shocked. When Yang Hao saw this, he chuckled secretly. He deliberately mentioned this, naturally intending to use Yi Zhang to play the emotional card. He added, "The Kurozumi snake has been executed by me. I am now the general of Wano country, and Hiyori is the general's wife. You seem to have something to do with Hiyori. Do you want to come back to Wano country with me to visit?" Hearing this, Yi Zhang pondered for a few seconds and then nodded slowly. Marco, Ace and others saw this and did not stop them. And they have no reason to stop it. After all, if the Whitebeard Pirates are disbanded, each of them will be free, and of course they can decide where to go. Seeing that Yi Zhang agreed, Yang Hao had a smile on his face, turned to look at Marco, Ace and others, and asked, "What about you? Would you like to go to Wano country with Izo? This is not an invitation to join, but if you follow Izo to Wano country, you will obviously express your intention to join the Beast Pirates." Hearing this, Izo also looked at Marco and others. If it is true as Yang Hao said, Yang Hao is the general and Kazuki Hiyori is the general's wife. So as a retainer of Kazuki, there is a high chance that he will join the Beast Pirates. In view of this, Izo actually hopes that Marco and others will join the Beast Pirates and continue to work with him. Upon hearing this, Marco, Ace and others immediately looked at each other. This time, Marco and others did not refuse in a hurry. Marco, in particular, fell into deep thought. In fact, when Whitebeard conveyed his intention to disband after his death, he also talked about their subsequent whereabouts. Among them, Whitebeard suggested that Marco join Yang Hao's pirate group. Of course, red hair will work too. Whether it's Yang Hao, red hair, or Whitebeard, they're all more recognized. Among the two, Marco didn't lean toward anyone. Although Yang Hao helped them in the previous war on the top, it was only a cooperation. As for redheads, there is also some friendship. But after the Battle of Liquidation, Marco naturally became more inclined to Yang Hao. After all, Yang Hao came to help them without receiving any reward this time. Marco will never forget this favor. For this reason, Marco agreed to Izo's proposal after some consideration. "Yang Hao, please excuse me, I also want to visit Wano country." "What about you?" After Marco finished speaking, he looked at Ace and others. In this matter, he did not make decisions for Ace and others. But Ace pondered for a moment and nodded, "I'll go too." Regarding Wano country, Ace has actually wanted to visit it again for a long time. He had been to Wano once, but was unable to change the hell pattern created by Kaido. Now, he really wants to see what Wano country has become under Yang Hao's management. That little girl, can she have enough to eat? Seeing that the three Marcos agreed one after another, the rest of Josie and others naturally had no objections and expressed their intention to go to Wano country together. Yang Hao was overjoyed. As long as Marco and others go to Wano country, he is confident that they will completely stay behind. Now it seems that he, the biggest winner in the Battle of Reckoning, has gained much more than he imagined. Chapter 276 News that shocked the world, returning to Wano country again. The country of peace. A newspaper broke the calm here. What? Whitebeard and Blackbeard are at war. Battle of Reckoning. Master Yang Hao also joined the war. Marine Fleet Admiral Sengoku abdicated. Aokiji and Akainu fought for Fleet Admiral for 10 days and 10 nights. After Yang Hao became the general of Wano, he officially founded Wano. So much so that the citizens have been able to receive messages from the outside world. These days, they have learned a lot about this world. It is precisely because of this that when the news of the Battle of Liquidation and Fleet Admiral came, everyone was shocked. They never expected that the country of Wazi was now stable and peaceful, but the world outside was full of turmoil and violent storms. Of course, the most surprised ones were Jin and others from Wano country. They get information faster than civilians. Only then did we know that Yang Hao, who had left Wano country, was actually going to participate in the Battle of Liquidation. Ghost Island, Jin, Quinn, Jack, Yamato, Kazuki Hiyori and others all gathered together. Why did boss Yang Hao run to participate in the liquidation battle without saying a word? Hiss, Whitebeard is dead, Blackbeard is dead too, and Kaido. With 2 of the 4 emperors gone at once, the pattern of New World will be completely broken. Yes, Akainu became the new fleet admiral and actually wants to move the marine headquarters to the New World. Several people were discussing, and suddenly their expressions change. Jin, Quinn and others suddenly sensed something and looked towards Yang Hao's residence. At this moment, a group of people walked out of Yang Hao's residence. There was one person in the lead, with black hair and black eyes, and an astonishing aura. If not Yang Hao, who else could it be? Following Yang Hao were also acquaintances of Jin and others. Marco, Ace, Josie, Bist, Master Yang Hao, Kazuki Hiyori hurriedly greeted him, and Jin and others stood up. They were a little surprised when they suddenly saw Yang Hao and others, but they quickly reacted. Yang Hao should have used Bu Lei's mirror fruit ability to return here. However, Jin and others are still a little confused. Why did Marco, Ace and the other white-bearded remnants come here too? Hiyori, it's just right for you to be here. Go get ready and have a banquet. Yang Hao immediately said to Kazuki Hiyori. Just as Jin and others thought, he took advantage of Bree's ability to quickly take Marco and others back to the country of Wano. Since Marco and others all had the intention of visiting Wano country, he naturally said nothing and waited until Whitebeard's funeral was over before bringing his people over. When Kazuki Hiyori heard this, he naturally didn't say anything and went to prepare immediately. But when she was passing by people, a voice stopped her. Miss Hiyori. A man who looks like a woman comes to Kazuki Hiyori. You are Uncle Izo. Kazuki Hiyori was startled at first and then said hesitantly. Yes, it was Izo who called Kazuki Hiyori. At this time, Izo looked at the slim Kazuki Hiyori, who soon overlapped with the little girl in his memory, and tears filled his eyes. Izo, if you have something to say to Hiyori, go ahead. By the way, Hiyori, call everyone back, especially Inuarashi, Cat Viper and the others. When Yang Hao saw this, he immediately said again. Izo nodded and followed Kazuki Hiyori away. The two of them were talking as they walked, in high spirits. At this time, Jin and others' eyes fell on Marco and others. After taking a few glances at Marco and the others, they were still a little confused as to why Yang Hao deliberately brought Marco and the others back. At this time, Jack said with some admiration, Boss Yang Hao, you actually went to participate in the Battle of Liquidation, why didn't you take me with you? Hearing this, Jin and Quinn did not agree. The two of them didn't want to participate. Among them, Quinn was beaten up by Yang Hao before, and his injury has not yet recovered. As for Jin, he doesn't want to fight Kaido to the death. This ending may be the best. In fact, Yang Hao did not take Jin and others with him for this reason. First, after the war on top, many people were still injured. Especially Katakuri and others. Secondly, Jin has something to do with Kaido. This time he is going to kill Kaido. It would be a bit cruel to take him there. So Yang Hao thought about it and decided to go alone. When he heard Jack's inquiry at this time, Yang Hao immediately explained. Actually, I didn't know that Whitebeard and Blackbeard were going to war. I just happened to go to Whitebeard for something. This explanation was also given to Marco and others. Prevent them from complaining. After all, if Yang Hao had brought Jin, Katakuri and others with him, perhaps Whitebeard would not have died in the Battle of Reckoning. Of course, as Yang Hao knew, Whitebeard's body had reached its limit. Even if he didn't die in the Battle of Liquidation, he would never survive for a few more days. Being able to die on the battlefield may be the best destination for Whitebeard. It might be an insult for such a man to die in a hospital bed. Just like Roger, who was suffering from a terminal illness, how could a great pirate of this level be willing to die in bed and die in depression? Marco and others obviously understood this, so they didn't mind. At this moment, Ace suddenly said, Well, Yang Hao, can I go and see other places? When Yang Hao heard this, he immediately understood what Ace meant. Okay, the party won't start so soon. I'll let Bree take you for a walk first. If you want to go where, just tell her. Ace nodded. He naturally already knew the ingenuity of Bray Mirror's fruit ability. With the ability of the mirror fruit, it is easy to cross the sea and move within the island, which is naturally no problem. Soon, Marco and others followed Ace and left. It is worth mentioning that this also includes Saab. Yes, the second in command of the Revolutionary Army did not leave after attending Whitebeard's funeral. Instead, he accompanied Ace and others and followed Yang Hao to Wano country. When Yang Hao saw this, he naturally didn't mind. In fact, if possible, he would also like to win over Saab. If not, he would also want to have a good relationship with the Revolutionary Army. After all, the Revolutionary Army will definitely be a big help when facing the world government in the future. After Marco, Ace and others left, Jin suddenly asked, Boss Yang Hao, are you planning to win over the Whitebeard pirates? Hearing this, Quinn and Jack were both startled. They haven't thought about this level yet. Jin, on the other hand, had a clear mind and quickly thought of this. Yang Hao did not deny this, but directly admitted, yes, now that Whitebeard is dead, the Whitebeard pirates have also been disbanded. Marco, Ace, they are all talents. If they can join us pirates if we join the group, it will make our pirate group even stronger. In fact, Yang Hao not only wants to win over the Whitebeard pirates and others, but even the pirate groups under the Whitebeard pirates are ready to win over one by one. But before that, they still have to win over Marco and others. As long as they are dealt with, I believe that the pirate groups under his banner will not be a problem. After all, after the Whitebeard pirates were disbanded, those pirate groups originally had to choose other pirate groups to rely on. In this way, as long as they succeed in wooing Marco and others, they will be considered to have fully taken over the power of the Whitebeard pirates. At that time, even the territory they belong to will be taken over as ordered. In general, winning over Marco and others is a matter of great benefit and no harm. Chapter 277 Dominate the New World? Take over the White Group? Soon, Quinn and Jack also wanted to understand the benefits of wooing Marco and others, and their eyes lit up. By winning over Marco and others, not only can they conquer the pirate groups under the Whitebeard pirates, but they can also take over even the territory of the Whitebeard pirates. By then, the power of their 10,000 Beasts pirates will obviously be greatly enhanced. After thinking about this, even Quinn perked up. Of course, in this way, Quinn may have competitors again. Before, he only had to compete with Jin and Katakuri. But if he takes over the Whitebeard pirates, Marco and Ace may become his competitors. But recently, Quinn has also figured it out. In fact, he doesn't have to compete with Jin and Katakuri. Forget it during the previous Beast Pirates period. After all, Kaido's territory is only the country of Wano. If he wants to gain more power, he can only compete with Jin. But now, the territory of the Beast Pirates extends beyond Wano country. Besides this, there are all nations. 10,000 kingdoms is not just one island, but a huge area composed of multiple islands. As for Whitebeard's territory, there are more. Although Whitebeard's territory is not connected together, there are many islands. In this way, if he really wants to dominate, he can let Yang Hao designate an island for him to manage alone. After understanding this, Quinn naturally hopes that the bigger the power of Yang Hao, the better, and the more islands under his control, the better. Therefore, he fully agreed with Yang Hao's idea of wooing Marco and others. Certainly. The reason why Yang Hao explained was not to discuss with Jin, Quinn and others, but to inform them. In the Beast Pirates, he is supreme. His thoughts are his only will. For Yang Hao now, taking over the Whitebeard pirates is definitely something he must do. After all, he wants to fight against the world government, or at least control the entire new world. Only then may it be possible to compete with the world government. In fact, what Yang Hao wants to do now is the same as Long of the Revolutionary Army. However, Long may have known that he could not compete with the world government in terms of strength, so he took the path of ideological reform. As long as people all over the world awaken their revolutionary will and no longer silently endure oppression, but choose to resist, they will be able to overthrow the world government. This idea is correct, but whether it can subvert world government is still a matter of debate. After all, in Yang Hao's view, the world government really has the power to destroy the world. In this way, even if all mankind stands on the opposite side, it is impossible to draw a conclusion whether it can win or not. So Yang Hao took the power route. He also wants to master the power to destroy the world and compete head-on with the world government. That way, you have a chance to win. Now, Yang Hao's strength has reached the level of a top powerhouse, and has even almost reached the legendary god level. But this kind of power is not enough. In addition to his own strength, the forces under him must also keep up. So, to what extent can we compete with the world government? Yang Hao feels that he must at least dominate the new world. And becoming the Emperor of the Sea is indeed considered dominating the new world. But judging from the previous pattern, there are 4 Sea Emperors who dominate the new world. In other words, Yang Hao must either become One Piece or become the only Emperor of the Sea to truly dominate the new world. As for One Piece, Yang Hao is actually very close. Although he had not mentioned it before, he already had 3 pieces of the historical text of the road sign in his hand. One piece comes from Big Mom, one piece comes from Kaido, and the other piece is from Zou Island. As long as he collects the last piece, he will be able to get the correct route to the final island. Yang Hao is not very interested in the One Piece's secret treasure. However, if he could become One Piece and have stronger appeal, Yang Hao would naturally not mind. So, where is the last historical text of the road sign? Obviously not in Whitebeard's hands, because he doesn't want to be One Piece. Therefore, the historical text of this road sign is most likely to be in the hands of the Red Hair. 4 Emperors' Redheads, and the current Red Hair is also the last obstacle that prevents Yang Hao from becoming the only Emperor of the Sea. So what Yang Hao has to do next is naturally to deal with the Red Hair. Let the opponent hand over the text of the road sign history, or completely defeat the opponent. Of course, it is still a little early to start a war with the red-haired pirates. Moreover, the red-haired person's position has always been somewhat ambiguous. Maybe, he will also become Yang Hao's help in fighting against the world government. Don't worry, your treatment will be the same as Jin, Katakuri and the others. I won't treat any of you badly. Kazuki Hiyori became Yang Hao's wife, and former retainers are now working for Yang Hao. But now as long as Yang Hao opens his mouth, no one will take action against those affiliated pirate groups in Whitebeard's territory. Okay, everyone, I want to ask again here, do you want to join our 10,000 Beasts Pirates? Amidst the cheers, the Beast Pirates completely accepted the white group. Hearing this, Izu, who had already been warned by Kazuki Hiyori, immediately responded, Master Yang Hao, I am willing to join the Beast Pirates. Yang Hao immediately went with Jin Quinn and others. And this is naturally what they want to see. Yang Hao glanced around and soon noticed that Izo was already reminiscing with Cat Viper Inuarashi and others, with sighs and emotions on their faces. As for Marco Ace and others, they have also returned from the visit. It was none other than Xiao Yu. Now that Whitebeard is gone, he can only return here. When we arrived at the banquet, it was already very lively. Next, 2 hours later, Yang Hao raised his wineglass and came to Marco, Ace and other captains. Captain Yang Hao, please give me more advice in the future. In view of this, Yang Hao is not in a hurry to deal with the red hair, but plans to take over the Whitebeard pirates first and then make plans. The end of the banquet. By the way, if you join the 10,000 Beasts Pirates, I will also be willing to take over the pirate groups and territory that were previously protected by Whitebeard. Seeing this scene, Yang Hao had a smile on his face. Among them, people from all nations are included. Everyone from captain level to above came to participate. He knew that there should be no problem in wooing Marco and others. Kazuki Hiyori has prepared the banquet and came to inform Yang Hao and others. As a result, captains such as Marco and Ace finally nodded. Yang Hao was refreshed and raised his glass. Okay, after this drink, we will all be brothers and partners from now on. Yizhang really has no reason to refuse. Sure enough, Marco and others raised their glasses one after another, and everyone at the banquet also raised their glasses. In fact, they also heard Yang Hao's intention to annex the pirate groups and territories of the Whitebeard pirates. This situation will only become more and more intense as time goes by, and will eventually break out completely. But to some extent, this is also a kind of shelter. After hearing Yang Hao's words, Marco, Ace and others looked at each other. In fact, as the news of Whitebeard's death spread, there was already some chaos on their territory. It is worth mentioning that at this time, Ace was accompanied by a little girl wearing a kimono, who looked very clingy to Ace. Chapter 278 Revolutionary Army Headquarters, Yang Hao's Goodwill and Long's Intention. The Grand Line. Bardigo. This is the island known as the Island of White Soil. What many people don't know is that this island has long been the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army. This day, in a certain dormitory of the Revolutionary Army, two figures emerged from the mirror. These two figures are both young and handsome men. One has a bare upper body and a white beard pattern on his back, while the other is wearing a black dress and top hat. None other than Ace and Sabo. Bree, thank you. Sabo first said something to the mirror behind him, then turned to Ace and said, Ace, do you want to come to my place for a visit? The reason why the two of them appeared here was naturally because Sabo left. Yang Hao asked Ace to take Bree and send Sabo back. Sabo couldn't help but admire Bree's mirror fruit ability. It would be great if their revolutionary army also had this ability. With this ability, their revolutionary army can easily spread the flame of revolution throughout the world. But they also knew that this was impossible, and Yang Hao could not let Bree go. Unless there is an alliance between the Beast Pirates and the revolutionary army. Thinking of this, Sabo couldn't help but think of the situation before leaving. What Sabo didn't expect was that after Yang Hao took over the Whitebeard Pirates, he would also recruit him. For this reason, he even gave him a very precious treasure. Of course, Sabo did not agree, but he accepted Yang Hao's goodwill on behalf of the Revolutionary Army. Judging from the conversation he had with Yang Hao before leaving, Yang Hao seemed to have great goodwill towards the Revolutionary Army. As the second in command of the Revolutionary Army, Sabo naturally knew the intentions of the leader Long. Generally speaking, the Revolutionary Army is very willing to make friends with this top force. Forget it, you can't just visit here. At this moment, Ace responded. After he learned that this was the headquarters of the Revolutionary Army, he immediately shook his head. If possible, he would be willing to stay with Sabo for a while. But considering the secrecy of the Revolutionary Army, he still refused. Sabo nodded and said nothing more, just hugging his brother goodbye. Soon, Ace's figure disappeared into the mirror again and disappeared together with Bree. Sabo watched Ace leave, then opened the door and walked out. Along the way, many fellow revolutionaries greeted Saab, and Saab responded one by one. At this moment, a short-haired girl wearing goggles and a hat rushed over and slapped Sabo on the shoulder. Saab, you're back, good guy, you didn't say a word, so you went to participate in the Battle of Liquidation. This short-haired girl is none other than the Revolutionary Army Kara. It is worth mentioning that there is no information about Sabo in the news reports of the Battle of Reckoning. But Kara obviously knows something about Sabo's whereabouts. When Sabo heard this, he immediately smiled and said, of course, I didn't go to the previous war on top, how could I be absent this time? Hearing this, Kurla complained a little. Why don't you tell me? It's too dangerous, you go alone. Feeling Kurla's concern, Sabo's smile became even bigger. Thank you, but I'm fine. By the way, where is Mr. Long? I have something important to tell him. Important things? Mr. Long should be in the office now. Okay. Upon hearing this, Sabo immediately went to Long's office. Seeing this, Kella followed curiously. She knew that what Sabo wanted to tell Long should be related to the Battle of Reckoning. Inside Long's office, Long was talking to Ivankov. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Come in. After Long said something, Sabo and Kara walked in from the outside. Seeing Sabo, Ivankov's eyes suddenly lit up. Saab, you're back. One can imagine how difficult it is to spread revolutionary ideas around the world. Even if he doesn't become the strongest emperor now, he will definitely achieve this achievement in the future. But this is still not enough, far from enough. The strongest royal group is indeed worthy of its name. Hiss, this Beast Pirates group is going to be heaven-defying. 3-4 Emperor's teams have been captured by him. So, is there any way to change it? So now, there is absolutely no objection. In his opinion, this is a matter of course, because Yang Hao is too young. And Saab is undoubtedly one of the best. Long's eyes flashed, he realized something, and asked, "This battle of liquidation is also very grand in scale. Do you have anything to tell me?" After all, even the red-haired pirates, known as the Iron Wall Pirates, even have two top powerhouses. But what interested Long more was Yang Hao's expression of goodwill to the Revolutionary Army. But compared to the Beast Pirates who have now taken over the Whitebeard Pirates, they are still obviously inferior. And at the current stage, their strength is obviously unable to keep up, and they have been at a disadvantage in repeated conflicts with the world government. What he didn't expect was that Yang Hao's force would become the strongest imperial group so quickly. In fact, as the revolution progressed, he became more and more aware of the difficulties of the revolution. Sabo nodded again, and then briefly told his experience this time. Just like his own achievements, in the blink of an eye, he soared from pirate supernova to become 4 emperors. After listening to Sabo's story, Cora and Ivankov exclaimed, "The Whitebeard Pirates have also joined the Beast Pirates." In fact, Sabo's whereabouts are not a secret within the Revolutionary Army. There is naturally nothing to say about the content of the war. In view of this idea, what Sabo said immediately made Long feel a little moved. Looking back at Yang Hao's situation, Long Yi had to sigh. In the blink of an eye, he stood out among the 4 emperors and became the strongest in terms of power and influence. Sabo nodded, then looked at Long, his face straightened. "Mr. Long." Speaking of this, Long couldn't help but feel moved in his heart. This Yang Hao is not only officially recognized as the most powerful emperor of the sea, but the forces under him are also truly the most powerful emperor group, right? When Long heard this, he was not too surprised, if there is still some controversy as to whether Yang Hao's previous team was the strongest royal team. What Sabo focused on was the subsequent situation where the Whitebeard Pirates joined the Beast Pirates and Yang Hao expressed goodwill to him. What a terrible young man. In countries that have joined the world government, the thinking of the people has been deeply ingrained and almost impossible to change. Sabo, is that Yang Hao really so friendly to our Revolutionary Army? Everyone knew that he ran to help Ace, but he didn't say much. In fact, Long had predicted this situation a long time ago, so in the past 10 years, he has consciously cultivated children and newcomers. Chapter 279 Possibility of Alliance, Sob Jackie Chan. Long Dewey was moved. In fact, their Revolutionary Army can also be regarded as a 4 emperors force. But it is far from enough for the 4 emperors to overthrow the world government. So he also started looking for foreign aid. Just joining forces with the pirates, Long still hesitated. As the saying goes, people with different paths do not seek each other. The Revolutionary Army want to make revolution and protect civilians. Pirates, on the other hand, rob civilians. In this aspect, there is also great conflict. So, even if they have the same enemy, world government, can they really work together? In addition, the only ones who can provide them with strong foreign aid are probably the 4 emperors. But with the arrogance of the 4 emperors, are they really willing to join forces with their Revolutionary Army? But now, what Long didn't expect was that Yang Hao actually conveyed goodwill to the Revolutionary Army through Saab. Does this mean there is a possibility for them to unite? Thinking of this, Long naturally became more moved. There is also the mirror fruit ability that Sabo mentioned. He also realized the convenience of this ability. If it can be used by their Revolutionary Army, I am afraid that they will be able to spread the flame of revolution to every country and corner in the world in a very short time. It's simply too convenient. From this point of view, if they can really form an alliance with Yang Hao, the current predicament that their Revolutionary Army is encountering will be solved in an instant. By the way, Sabo, that Yang Hao gave you a very precious treasure, what is it? Long suddenly asked again. He wanted to use the treasure Yang Hao gave to Sabo to confirm whether Yang Hao's good deeds were true. He indeed wanted to form an alliance with Yang Hao, but he was also a little worried that Yang Hao would use their Revolutionary Army. After all, Yang Hao can become the strongest 4 emperors. In addition to his strength, his IQ is definitely superior. Everything he did had a profound meaning. As the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Long must be cautious when facing such a major situation. Hearing this, Kurla and Ivankov also looked at Yang Hao curiously. They were also a little curious. What is that precious treasure that Yang Hao gave to Sabo? Upon hearing this, Sabo immediately took out a small box from his arms. Opening the box, there was a fruit with red rings on its surface. What's this? Kella asked. Long and Ivankov also looked at Sabo, waiting for his answer. Sabo immediately said, "According to Yang Hao, this is an artificial devil fruit. The so-called artificial devil fruit is a man-made devil fruit. Currently, it only has the animal type. But other artificial devil fruits are not very effective. Only this one is perfect, and it imitates Kaido's blue dragon ability." Hearing this, the 3 dragons were suddenly surprised. Artificial devil fruit. There is such a thing. They have been busy with the cause of the Revolutionary Army and seem to be a little ignorant. Especially Ivankov, after he came out of prison after several years, he felt that the world had become strange. Pirate supernovas appear frequently, the 7 warlords of the sea are replaced, and the 4 emperors fall. Now even artificial devil fruits are popping up, but what is certain is that this artificial devil fruit is not simple. It turned out to be a copycat of Kaido's abilities. Naturally, several people are familiar with Kaido's abilities. Judging from Kaido's ability, even if he can only imitate a 3-point effect, it is still very powerful. When they thought of this, several people's eyes lit up. Kara asked directly, "Sob, do you plan to eat?" Hearing this, Sabo hesitated. In fact, with the capabilities of their revolutionary army, it is not difficult to find devil fruits. It's just that in these years, Sabo has never encountered any devil fruit that he likes, so he has not become an esper. But now instead of eating the original fruit, Sob hesitated to eat a counterfeit one. Although this is a replica of Kaido's blue dragon fruit. "Mr. Long, what do you think?" Sabo suddenly turned to the dragon and asked. When Long heard the words, he pondered for a moment and said, "This can only be decided by yourself." In fact, he wanted Sabo to eat it, because in this way, he could see Yang Hao's attitude from the strength of this artificial devil fruit. If this artificial devil fruit is really as Yang Hao said, it is perfect. So he didn't give it to his men, but gave it to Sabo, which proves that the goodwill expressed by the other party is true. Otherwise, it is false. It was deliberately framed to prevent Sabo from gaining stronger power by taking other genuine devil fruits. Of course, it's okay for Sabo not to eat it, and it can be verified by letting other members of the Revolutionary Army eat it. But before that, it still depends on Sob's wishes. When Sabo heard this, he looked at the fruit in his hand again, his eyes twinkling. After thinking about it, he still said, "Mr. Long, I'd better eat it. Yang Hao's goodwill towards the Revolutionary Army should be true." Sabo actually knew what Long was thinking. Sabo had no doubts about Yang Hao's goodwill. The main reason is actually because of his relationship with Ace. In his opinion, he and Ace have such a close relationship, and Yang Hao has just accepted Ace, so there is no way he could turn around and harm him. So this artificial devil fruit may really be as perfect as Yang Hao said. Of course, Sabo couldn't be completely sure whether this was the case before eating it. But somewhere deep down, Sabo had a feeling that he would regret it if he didn't eat this artificial devil fruit. With this feeling, Sabo finally decided to eat this artificial devil fruit. After making the decision, Sabo no longer hesitated and immediately picked up the artificial devil fruit and took a big bite. "How does it taste? I heard it tastes bad, right?" Kara and Ivankov looked at Sabo nervously. Sabo looked surprised. The taste in the mouth is not unpleasant, but rather sweet. Just like that, Sabo ate the artificial devil fruit in just a few mouthfuls. "How about it? Have you felt the power yet?" Kara and Ivankov asked again. Ryu also stared at Sabo closely. Sabo felt it silently and was about to say something when his expression suddenly changed. The next second, Sabo moved his steps and rushed outside. Sabo, where are you going?" Kella was stunned and quickly followed. Long and Ivankov looked at each other in confusion and also chased out. The result is the next moment, the three dragons all saw an incredible scene. I saw a 1,000-meter giant dragon suddenly appearing in the sky outside the headquarters. The pink body was suspended in the midair like a cloud, with an astonishing momentum all over his body. Sob. When Long and others saw this, they were stunned. Sabo turned into a dragon. In a daze, they seemed to see Kaido coming. Chapter 280. The real Dragon Claw Fist perfectly inherits the ability of the blue dragon. In the sky, the giant pink dragon is soaring in the clouds and hovering in the sky. The 1,000-meter-long dragon body stretches slowly, revealing an astonishing momentum. Ivankov and Kara were stunned for a moment. Long Yi's pupils shrank, with a look of shock on his face. Suddenly, they seemed to see Kaido. But this giant dragon is clearly the Sabo who rushed out just now. Turn out to be. Sabo just now, after eating the artificial devil fruit, subconsciously tried to activate his abilities. As a result, the next second, he had a strange premonition that he was about to turn into a huge dragon. It was precisely because he was aware of this that Sabo quickly ran out of the headquarters to avoid unnecessary damage caused by his transformation. However, at this moment, despite his premonition, Sabo was still extremely shocked when he looked down at his pink dragon body. He actually turned into a dragon. The power continued to emerge, which boosted Sabo's spirit. Sob. At this moment, Kara's call came from below. Sabo read on. Kara quickly asked, "Sob, how do you feel now? How did you become a blue dragon exactly like Kaido? Do you also have the same abilities as Kaido?" Saying this, Kurla's eyes were full of surprise. Long and Ivankov also looked up at the sky, waiting for Sabo's answer. Their views are the same as Kara's. At this time, Sabo is exactly the same as Kaido. Except for some differences in color, they are clearly the same dragon. Could it be that the artificial devil fruit presented by Yang Hao really perfectly replicated Kaido's blue dragon ability? After hearing Kara's words, Sabo also subconsciously felt himself carefully. Soon, he discovered more subtleties in that majestic power. For example, flying in the clouds and driving the mist is almost instinctive. Not only can he control the amount of clouds and mist, he can also control the direction. As a result, the giant dragon transformed by Sabo soon leapt and flew in midair. A strong wind swept across, blowing the clothes of Long and others. Just the sound of the giant dragon flying is amazing. But what's next, even more amazing, is yet to come. After flying for a few minutes, Sabo suddenly stopped and the dragon's mouth opened slightly. In addition to flying, he soon sensed another ability. Following the induction, his body moved on its own. The next second, under the shocked gaze of Long and others, a large amount of flames suddenly emerged from the mouth of the giant dragon that Sabo had transformed into. The flames surged out like lava, and then erupted directly from the dragon's mouth. Boom! Amidst the exciting explosions, a beam of orange flame like a sky pillar spurted out from Sabo's mouth and fell directly on the sea in front of the coast. Just here a bang. The sea surface was penetrated. Then with a burst of trembling sound, a large amount of steam rose up. In the blink of an eye, the entire coast became hazy. When Long and others saw this, they were shocked again. In this situation, it is clear that Sabo is breathing dragon breath. This dragon's breath seems to be no less generous than Kaido's. Talk about it. In fact, Long and others have never fought against Kaido. However, as the strongest creatures in the world, they also know Kaido's information very well, so now, the more they look at it, the more surprised they are. Because compared to Kaido, Sabo at this time shows more and more similarities. Hiss, this power. After spitting for more than 10 seconds, Sabo finally closed the dragon's mouth. What surprised him was that his mouth didn't feel any heat at all. Looking below, as the steam rose, a huge crater formed on the sea surface and then slowly disappeared. Just now, his dragon's breath directly hit a large crater of more than 1,000 meters in the sea surface, and then it disappeared after the water flowed back. This power made Sabo shocked. The more he understood about the abilities he was showing now, the more shocked he became. Does the current me really master Kaido's power of the blue dragon? Thinking of this, Sabo couldn't help but get excited. Suddenly, the huge dragon body fell straight to the sea. Huh! Sabo! Kara and others couldn't help but be startled when they saw this. What does Sab want to do? Could it be that he wanted to enter the sea? In the view of Ryu and others, if the artificial devil fruit that Sabo ate was an imitation devil fruit, then his weakness of fear of the sea should also exist. But soon, Long and others discovered that they had gone astray. Sabbat flew to the sea in the clouds and missed, not to enter the sea. The moment he approached the sea, Sabo suddenly stretched out two hill-like dragon claws. Above the dragon's claws, a penetrating cold light shone brightly. Then they heard Sabo's low drink, dragon's breath. Seeing this, Long and others realized that Sabo was using physical skills, Dragon Claw Fist. Among them, Dragon's Breath is the extended skill of Dragon Claw Fist. The principle of this move is to use an inch of force to hit the weak point with a powerful impact and explosion. The power is so great that it is astonishing. Moreover, this only refers to the effect in human form. Now that Sabo has turned into a real dragon, what kind of power will he unleash if he uses this move again? Thinking of this, Long and others became energetic. Especially dragons. As the founder of Dragon Claw Fist, he suddenly discovered that his Dragon Claw Fist might be surpassed by Sabo. Because at this time, Sabo has turned into a real dragon. And what follows seems to confirm this idea. When Sabo's huge dragon claw fell on the sea, a terrifying situation occurred. Using real dragon claws to perform Dragon Claw Fist, the power seemed to really complement each other. At this moment, a terrifying impact burst out between Sabo's dragon claws. The rough sea below froze at this moment, but the next second, boom. Along with a shocking loud noise, an even more exaggerated giant crater appeared on the sea surface again. The terrifying shockwave that erupted in that moment exploded countless seawater. This is not over yet. After the huge crater appeared, the entire sea seemed to be injured. It began to tremble all over and huge waves began to roll. In the blink of an eye, a small-scale tsunami formed around the White Earth Island. Such power shocked both Kurla and Ivankov. Long Yi stared at the sea in the distance, his face full of shock. At this point, they were finally sure that the artificial devil fruit that emerged from Sabo was perfect. Perfectly inherits all the abilities of the blue dragon fruit. Realizing this, Long suddenly made a major decision in his heart. It was also on this day that the Revolutionary Army's branches all over the world received Long's summons. A major cadre meeting will be held at the headquarters. Chapter 281 Moria and Brother Ming surrender, Violet attacks at night. When a Revolutionary Army cadre meeting was held in Baldigo, the White Earth Island. Dressrosa welcomed several special guests, inside the palace. Torpal, Pika, Diamante, Rauji and other cadres are all listed. Under the leadership of Doflamingo, they faced the three people who suddenly appeared in fear. These three people were none other than Yang Hao, Moonlight Moria, and Absalom. It is worth mentioning, after the Battle of Liquidation, Yang Hao also conquered Moonlight Moria. Moreover, it was not proposed by Yang Hao, but requested by Moonlight Moria. Turn out to be. In the Battle of Reckoning, Moonlight Moria has realized the reality. With his ability, he couldn't protect his partners at all, especially after the Shadow Gathering Place was exposed. So after the Battle of Liquidation, Moonlight Moria took the initiative to find Yang Hao and expressed his surrender. Regarding Yang Hao, Moonlight Moria also had complaints. After all, it was because of Yang Hao's order that he fell into the hands of Doflamingo. Later, Absalom and others were also arrested because they wanted to save him. It was precisely because of this that he had to be coerced by Kaido later. But after the Battle of Reckoning, Moonlight Moria's resentment towards Yang Hao naturally disappeared. All because Kaido has died in Yang Hao's hands. This time, Moonlight Moria and Yang Hao came, naturally looking for Doflamingo and asking for the other two partners, Hogback and Perona. Doflamingo, where are Hogback and Perona? As soon as she saw Doflamingo, Moonlight Moria couldn't help but ask. His tone couldn't help but be a little annoyed. Doflamingo heard this and looked at Yang Hao. At this time, Doflamingo also looked like he was following Yang Hao's lead. No way. Before the Battle of Reckoning began, Doflamingo also had a similar realization to Moonlight Moria. A new era has arrived, and with the size of their current Don Quixote family, there is no way they can survive it safely. Only by boarding the ship of the four emperors' forces can you survive. Originally, they could barely make a choice among the four emperors. But now, naturally there is no choice. Only two of the four emperors remain. It seems unlikely that new four emperors will be selected in a short period of time. So, among the four emperors, it seems obvious which side their Don Quixote will lean towards. They have almost no friendship with the red-haired pirates. But Yang Hao is different. There is quite a connection between them. Yang Hao was a cadre of their Don Quixote before. Although their relationship was a bit unpleasant, they eventually became related. Later, Doflamingo also helped Yang Hao a lot in the top battle. He even captured Moonlight Moria. Although he was later intercepted by Kaido, in terms of credit, he still had some merit. In this way, they, Don Quixote, are naturally destined to rely on Yang Hao. Noticing Doflamingo's eyes, Yang Hao immediately smiled and nodded. Let him go. In fact, when he came here this time, in addition to helping Moonlight Moria find people, he also planned to take over the Don Quixote family. As a force of the 7 warlords of the sea, Doflamingo and others are not as powerful as Marco and others, but they can still be used. Especially Sugar, who is under Doflamingo and has toy abilities. This ability can obviously be of many uses to Yang Hao. With this ability, he might be able to erode marine and world government a little bit. In addition, after taking over Moonlight Moria, Yang Hao naturally wanted to use his ultimate move Shadow Gathering. The toy fruit of Sugar and the Shadow Gathering place of Moonlight Moria complement each other very well. You know, there are currently tens of thousands of toys in Dressrosa's underground toy project. The shadows of these toys still exist. By collecting these shadows, even if there is no war, Moonlight Moria can directly give him the nightmare buff. The best thing is that those toys are hidden on the ground. Even if their shadows are taken away, it will not have any impact. Of course, the Rabbit Bowl Prison in Wano and the Book Fruit of All Nations are also good places to place shadow hosts. But Yang Hao would naturally not dislike a place like this. In general, taking over the Don Quixote family will definitely come in handy. Of course, with Doflamingo's ambition, he should not disperse the pirate group, but join them as an affiliated pirate group. Even, Doflamingo may not be truly loyal, but Yang Hao didn't mind this. As long as he had enough power, he wouldn't worry about people like Don Quixote betraying him or being lazy. And the attitude Doflamingo is showing now obviously gives Yang Hao enough face. After hearing Yang Hao's words, Doflamingo immediately turned to Rao Ji and signaled. Soon, Rao Ji left the team and came back with a man and a woman. If not Hogbark and Perona, who else? Captain Lord Moria. After regaining their freedom and seeing Moonlight Moria again, the two of them suddenly became excited. A smile appeared on Moonlight Moria's gloomy face. Just because he could successfully get Hogback and Perona back now, he felt that he was doing the right thing by following Yang Hao. Yang Hao, you probably haven't eaten yet. Let's go eat and talk about it. At this moment, Doflamingo carefully consulted Yang Hao for his opinion. Naturally, Yang Hao would not refuse, and then said to Yuguang Moria and others, you guys can come too. In the future, Doflamingo and Moonlight Moria will both work under him. It would be good to use this opportunity to ease their relationship. Just like that, soon, the people present moved to the banquet hall of the palace. Not surprisingly, Yang Hao was arranged to sit in the main seat. Torbal, Diamante, Pika and others also respected Yang Hao very much and kept toasting enthusiastically. Among them, Torbal was even suspected of flattering. But there is nothing we can do about it. Before Yang Hao arrived, Doflamingo had already held a cadre meeting. Everyone unanimously agreed with Doflamingo's decision to join the Beast Pirates. There is no need to say more about the reasons. If they don't agree, Kaido's fate may be theirs tomorrow. Since the attitude of Doflamingo and others was so obvious, Yang Hao naturally would not bother to beat them. There are some things that everyone just needs to know. So, after a banquet, the guests and hosts enjoyed themselves. Even Moonlight Moria and the others were drunk, especially Moonlight Moria. He felt particularly relaxed after giving up his dream of being One Piece. Yang Hao also drank a lot, and he was very happy that the Whitebeard Pirates and the Don Quixote family joined one after another. And if he predicted correctly, it is estimated that good news will come from the Revolutionary Army in the near future. When he was happy, Yang Hao became a little drunk. After the banquet, he simply did not go back, but decided to rest for a night at Dressrosa Palace. Seeing that Yang Hao was drunk, Doflamingo seemed to have arranged for a maid to take care of him. The next moment, a beautiful figure appeared in Yang Hao's room. But when the familiar scent of orchids came, Yang Hao was startled. He took a look, and a look of surprise flashed across his handsome face. Violet? It's actually Violet? The person arranged by Doflamingo turned out to be Violet? No, she came here on her own. Yang Hao suddenly reacted, and his face became more playful. Chapter 282 Violet's Tenderness, Yang Hao's Small Promise. The next day, Yang Hao woke up on the luxurious and comfortable big bed. Beside him, there was a soft and fragrant figure. Snap. Get up. Yang Hao reached out and patted the elastic part, then got up and started to get dressed. But at this moment, the fragrant and soft figure quietly came over. Master Yang Hao. There was moisture in those seductive beautiful eyes. There is no doubt that this figure is Violet. Last night, Yang Hao was a little drunk, and she suddenly ran over. The arrival of the other party was probably not arranged by Doflamingo. After all, it is impossible for Doflamingo not to know that Violet has thoughts of revenge. If Violet wins Yang Hao's favor, it will definitely be a devastating disaster for Don Quixote. Now Yang Hao can wipe out the entire Don Quixote family with just one thought. It is precisely because of this that Violet came secretly last night. Yes, she definitely came here secretly. Yang Hao just pretended not to know her purpose. So Violet was anxious now and immediately went over to hug Yang Hao. Master Yang Hao, are you leaving now? Speaking of which, Violet regretted it a little. She had only interacted with Yang Hao once before when Yang Hao was still a cadre of the Don Quixote family. If I want to deepen the relationship later, I have no chance at all. After Yang Hao went to Punk Hassad, he skyrocketed completely. Until now, they have become the unattainable and strongest four emperors. Will there be a shortage of women around Yang Hao like this? Impossible. But no matter what, Violet has to give it a try. Certainly, it would be too abrupt to speak rashly, so Violet planned to make some demands after her relationship with Yang Hao became closer. Thinking like this, Violet wrapped around Yang Hao like a water snake. Yang Hao did not refuse, and pressed Violet's head, silently enjoying the endless tenderness. It took more than half an hour before Yang Hao relaxed his control on his body. Violet made a move and made a sweet sound from the corner of her mouth. After a while, sensing that Yang Hao had stopped, Violet stepped back. Yang Hao looked down. Violet also looked up, but at this moment, her eyes were watery and her red lips were slightly open. As if to please Yang Hao, Violet glanced at Yang Hao with a smile on her face, and then slowly closed her mouth. When Yang Hao saw this, he couldn't help but be startled. Then Violet gently and quietly cleaned up for him. Even next, he dressed Yang Hao considerately. Why? Yang Hao sighed secretly. He knew exactly what this woman wanted. But at the moment, it is impossible for him to kill Don Quixote for the sake of the other party. After all, Doflamingo's Don Quixote has much more effect on him than Violet. Not only can he work for him, but he can also learn some secrets of world government from Doflamingo, thereby gaining a better understanding of world government. At this juncture, it was certainly impossible for him to attack Don Quixote. Yang Hao has always put interests first, and he is not a crystal bug-minded guy, so Violet's hopes are destined to be in vain. Even though Violet really served Yang Hao very attentively, Yang Hao still had ruthless thoughts. But now that I can really feel Violet's dedication and determination in my body, Yang Hao still feels a little soft-hearted. Of course, it is still impossible for him to abandon Don Quixote for the other party. However, under this premise, we can help the other party a little. Thinking of this, Yang Hao reached out and touched Violet's hair. Feeling Yang Hao's movements, Violet's beautiful eyes suddenly lit up. In fact, she also knew that there was little hope. This is evident from Yang Hao's performance last night. Although Yang Hao acted very enthusiastically, he didn't have any enthusiasm at all, but showed indifference. It was only now that Violet felt a trace of warmth from Yang Hao. At this moment, what surprised Violet even more was that Yang Hao suddenly asked, "You seem to have a grudge against Doflamingo?" Upon hearing this, Violet's expression suddenly became vivid. In fact, she had already revealed her intention to deal with Doflamingo to Yang Hao, but she didn't go into details. As for Yang Hao, of course he knew the inside story, but he didn't want to show it too clearly. Otherwise, Violet would misunderstand something if he couldn't explain clearly. So now, even though he wanted to help Violet, he still had to ask knowingly. And this question immediately ignited a fire of hope in Violet's heart. Violet perked up and quickly Kaido. Yes, there is a huge hatred between me and Doflamingo. Then Yang Hao once again heard about Doflamingo's occupation of the kingdom of Dressrosa from Violet's mouth. The reason why I became a Don Quixote cadre was because Doflamingo forced me. He coveted my abilities and threatened me with the lives of my father and niece. Violet burst into tears when she finished speaking. Yang Hao shook his head secretly, but couldn't empathize. At this time, after finishing speaking, Violet turned her teary eyes and looked at Yang Hao. The meaning is self-evident. Yang Hao immediately confessed, "Violet, I won't tell you anything. For your sake, it is impossible for me to attack Don Quixote. However, you, your father, and your niece, by the way, and that brother-in-law, I can save you from Doflamingo. Brother-in-law? Violet was not too surprised when she heard Yang Hao's words. In fact, this was the best result she could think of. She also understood that Yang Hao could not kill Don Quixote for himself. You are not that important yet, so Violet had already thought of settling for the next best thing. It would be good to be able to save the lives of a few of her people and regain their freedom. And if Yang Hao opens his mouth, Doflamingo will definitely give him face. Their father, daughter, and the niece will no longer live in dire straits. As for the kingdom of Dressrosa, we can only plan slowly later. Violet is not completely brainless, but has relatively clear ideas. What she didn't expect was that Yang Hao suddenly mentioned brother-in-law. Do I have a brother-in-law? Violet was a little confused. Yang Hao laughed. If you don't have a brother-in-law, how can you have a niece? Yes, but why'd I have no impression of my sister's husband at all? Hearing Yang Hao's words, Violet was stunned again, but then she was still a little confused. You don't have to worry about it. As long as you agree with what I say, this is the best I can do for you at the moment. Hearing this, Violet nodded gratefully. Master Yang Hao, thank you. That's all. Next, Yang Hao took Violet directly and left the room. Seeing Yang Hao and Violet appear arm in arm, Doflamingo's expression suddenly changed. Chapter 283 Brother Ming surrenders, I'm secret. Doflamingo's expression changed when he saw Violet holding Yang Hao's arm. In fact, Doflamingo was aware of Violet's disappearance last night. After all, his control over Dressrosa is still very high. But when he discovered this later, it was already too late. Violet had already gotten into Yang Hao's room. He didn't dare to disturb him at such a moment. In desperation, we can only wait for dawn anxiously. But now, the most worrying situation has happened. Could it be that Yang Hao wanted to kill their Don Quixote for Violet? Veins appeared faintly on Doflamingo's forehead. In his heart, he was ready to fight to the death. Even though he knew that he would go with all the cadres, there was a high chance that he would not be Yang Hao's opponent. But it is still impossible for him to sit still and wait for death. Fortunately, what made Doflamingo secretly relieved was that Yang Hao did not attack him, but said, I'm a little hungry, are you ready for breakfast? Hearing this, Doflamingo was startled, looked at Violet, then looked at Yang Hao, and then nodded. With Yang Hao's strength, there is obviously no need to be hypocritical and snake-like with him. Now that Yang Hao has said this, there is a high chance that he will not take action against him. But why? Didn't Violet stay in Yang Hao's room last night? Thinking like this, Doflamingo immediately led Yang Hao to the restaurant. Violet still followed, but her face was expressionless and she didn't say a word. Moonlight Moria and others were also there, and after each saying hello, everyone began to eat. At this time, Yang Hao finally made it clear, Brother Ming, what do you think? Have you decided whether you want to join our 10,000 Beasts Pirates? Yang Hao had already mentioned this topic during the banquet yesterday. Doflamingo did not agree on the spot. Obviously, after the banquet, they should still discuss it. Now, it is naturally time to reveal the results, and Yang Hao cannot give Doflamingo too much time to think about it. Of course, Doflamingo actually has no choice, especially now that Yang Hao and Violet have shown a certain relationship. If he becomes an affiliated force of the Beast Pirates, you can imagine his fate. And next, Doflamingo's answer did not disappoint Yang Hao. Yang Hao, we, Don Quixote, are willing to become affiliated with the Beast's Pirates. While saying this, Doflamingo couldn't help but glance at Violet. They had indeed discussed many times about becoming an affiliate of the Beast Pirates. But the result every time is agreement. There is no way, just as Doflamingo thought before. The wave of the new era has arrived. Although they, Don Quixote, have become the climate, they do not have the power to completely compete. Only by boarding the big ship of the four emperors can we survive in this turbulent era. But now, there are only 2 four emperors left, and it's not impossible to follow the red hair. But in terms of origin, of course it is better to follow Yang Hao. Don't forget, Yang Hao was not only a cadre of the Don Quixote family before, but Baby-5 is currently his woman. In this way, as they become affiliated with the Beast Pirates, their status within the Beast Pirates is not too bad. But now, because of Violet, there are obviously more variables. Fine. Yang Hao has never expressed any intention to attack Don Quixote. But at the end of the meal, he reminded Doflamingo seemingly unintentionally, by the way, I will take Violet with me when I go back. Violet will also live with me in the future, and her family will also move there, go and help. Hearing this, Doflamingo was startled and finally understood. He breathed a sigh of relief. Obviously, Violet and Yang Hao are still related. However, this relationship is not worthy of him attacking Don Quixote. Yang Hao just wanted him to release Violet's family. If that's all, Doflamingo is naturally no problem. Violet's family had been kept in the past just to coerce her into working for him. Now that Yang Hao has spoken, he will definitely give him face. Ever since. After finishing the meal, Violet left the palace and soon saw her father and niece again. In addition, Torbil and Sugar quickly brought over a toy soldier with a broken leg. While the three of them were wondering, a strange scene appeared. This toy soldier turned into a one-legged swordsman in the blink of an eye. No, it should be said, it's recovery. Obviously, Sugar put away the toy ability and restored Cyrus. As Cyrus recovered, the three people's memories of him naturally recovered. Therefore, when pirates reach the four emperors level, they are almost automatically regarded as a thorn in the side of the world government. He conquered the Don Quixote family, and more importantly, he actually wanted to take Don Quixote's business into his own hands. Therefore, even though Don Quixote became a subsidiary of the Beast Pirates, in a certain respect, nothing has changed much. Yang Hao and Doflamingo came to a quiet room again. It's really hard to say how much power they can increase the power of the Beast Pirates. When he mentioned this identity, there was a hint of venom in his eyes. Yang Hao also has no intention of occupying this island. Cyrus. In the room, Yang Hao turned his back to Doflamingo and suddenly said, regardless of whether they show hostility to the world government or not, they cannot escape the fate of being targeted and destroyed by the world government. Upon seeing this, Toribol immediately left quietly with the sugar. In this way, he will make a lot of money on the basis of making money every day. Doflamingo raised his eyebrows and then nodded. That's right. The few people left behind naturally cried with joy and fell into the joy of reunion. Father, therefore, Yang Hao will not take Doflamingo and other members of the Don Quixote family away. Then, he felt a hint of surprise. To put it bluntly, Don Quixote joined One Piece as an affiliated force in exchange for money. To be more precise, it's IM's secret. Although the Don Quixote family has become an affiliated force of the Beast Pirates, it does not mean that they will move there. Brother-in-law, Brother Ming, as far as I know, you are a former Tianlong. This is the case for Yang Hao now. After the things here are dealt with, Yang Hao will naturally go back. And just when Violet's family was reunited, ever since, the current scene has happened. He will only take Violet, Moonlight Moria and others away. Wanting to understand this, Doflamingo pondered for a few seconds and immediately revealed a secret of world government. Doflamingo thought about it and soon understood what Yang Hao meant. After all, Yang Hao has reached the current level. If he wants to climb up, he can only become One Piece and the Lord of the World. After all, the world government cannot allow any force to challenge its authority, not even the four emperors. But before going back, he still had something to ask Doflamingo. It doesn't matter whether One Piece does it or not, but the Lord of the World is definitely unavoidable. After all, Doflamingo's power barely reached the level of the Imperial Deputy. It seems that Yang Hao accepted them because of his predecessor's identity as a Tianlong. Chapter 284 The Eternals of the Pirate World? Eternal Life. Yang Hao murmured, a strange look flashed across his face. Doflamingo, the former celestial dragon, really knows the secrets of world government. Moreover, it is still IM's secret. This secret is I am, the Eternal One. As if he was worried that Yang Hao wouldn't believe it, Doflamingo added, with Paramecia Devil Fruit power, there is a devil fruit called Surgery Fruit. With this fruit, after the ability is awakened, you can perform immortality surgery on the target and make the target immortal. But the price is the life of the caster. Saying this, Doflamingo stared at Yang Hao, wanting to see his reaction. What surprised Doflamingo was that, except for Yang Hao's slight reaction at first, his expression quickly calmed down later. In fact, Yang Hao had already guessed that Yi Mu was an immortal. This is actually a situation that is easy to relate to. On the earth where he lived in his previous life, even those with a little wealth and power would want to live longer and even seek eternal life. And in the world of pirates, how could the supreme celestial dragon not seek immortality? The point is, this world really does have this method. In this way, as the Lord of the World, I am can't make sense at all if he doesn't plot something. As for the fact that performing immortality surgery will sacrifice the ability of the surgery fruit, it is obviously not a problem for the world government with its vast power. Therefore, it is certain that there is definitely an immortal person in the world government, and there is even more than one. Of course, it is also possible that only I am reached it. After all, the other party broke the rules of World Noble and became the true master of the world. Whether he will allow other tribesmen to gain eternal life is still uncertain, but he himself is definitely already immortal. It is even very possible that he is one of the ancestors of the celestial dragons who overthrew the huge kingdom 800 years ago. Of course, guesswork is guesswork. Now that he has been recognized by Doflamingo, Yang Hao can't help but feel moved. In this way, it is no wonder that the Tianlong people can tolerate some of Doflamingo's offensive actions. After all, if the news that I am is an immortal spreads, it will definitely cause a shock to the world. Whether it is the four emperors on the surface or the top powerhouses secretly, they will probably cause trouble for the world government. Again, when wealth reaches a certain level or power reaches a certain level, who doesn't want to live forever? Even Yang Hao is not immune to this, but fortunately, he had already obtained eternal life long ago without being aware of it. And this was also the reason why he was so calm after knowing that I am was an immortal. Otherwise, even he would probably be moved. You know, this is not the world of cultivating immortals. In such a pirate world, being able to achieve immortality is undoubtedly a huge gain. However, precisely because of this, he and I am became even more in conflict. Am might be able to tolerate the immortality of other tribesmen, but he would never allow a pirate to have an infinite life like himself. It is conceivable that even if Yang Hao does not try to overthrow the world government now, when decades pass and he realizes that he is immortal, Am will definitely take action against him. In this way, there is no possibility of reconciliation between them. Yang Hao thought about this silently. Doflamingo was even more surprised. Most people will show great interest if they learn that they can live forever. Because this thing is more exciting than gold and silver treasures, even ordinary people will not be indifferent. It goes without saying about the allure of the top strong men. This can actually be seen from the situation of Whitebeard. How amazing was the Whitebeard in his youth, crew member of the Rocks Pirates, captain of the Whitebeard Pirates, and the strongest man in the world. However, such an existence cannot withstand the erosion of time, and eventually dies of aging diseases. What would happen if he could have eternal life? But what Doflamingo never expected was that Yang Hao showed no interest. Is it because Yang Hao is too young now and has not considered this level yet? Of course, this is also possible. But if he wants to plot immortality, Yang Hao had better start plotting now, otherwise, he will be in trouble when decades pass. After all, if you want to live forever, you must not only find the fruit of the operation, but also find the right person. It is not easy to achieve both of these things. Doflamingo obviously does not know that Yang Hao has become immortal, and Yang Hao will not take the initiative to expose this situation. After thinking for a while, he asked, "What about Im's abilities and the information about the 5 elders? How much do you know?" Yang Hao didn't pay much attention to Yim Yangsheng's situation for the time being. All because he knows that the effect of eternal life does not mean invincibility. Eternal life only means infinite vitality, but it does not mean immortality. If you encounter a devastating blow, the immortal will also die. So what he cares more about is what abilities Im possesses, and what means he has acquired over the course of 800 years. But it's a pity that Doflamingo doesn't know this either. After all, he has never seen Im take action. In other words, as the Lord of the World, Im has not taken action for a long time, at least in front of others. He can tell his 5 elders, CP, or Marine to do many things. Yang Hao naturally understood this. If Doflamingo had really seen Im take action, he probably wouldn't be alive today. However, from the 5 elders, Doflamingo provided some useful information. As for the 5 elders, I don't know if they are immortal, but according to my investigation, they should be over 100 years old. Hearing Doflamingo's words, Yang Hao narrowed his eyes. According to the combat power shown by the 5 elders in the original work, they will definitely not be 100 years old. There is no sense of aging among them at all. So, they're also immortals? But if even the 5 elders are immortals, that would be ridiculous. The gold content of immortality is not that cheap. However, there must be a reason why 5 elders are so old and still have such strong power. Yang Hao couldn't help but think of the immortality of the 5 elders. He knew about the abilities of the 5 elders, but it was obviously impossible to have the effect of immortality. So there should be secrets about them that Yang Hao doesn't know about. Is there any way to get more information about the world government? Yang Hao then asked Doflamingo, "Let me try this." When Doflamingo heard this, Kaido was a little unsure. In fact, he has been inquiring about world government information. After all, if you want to overthrow the world government, you must know more about it. Just relying on the circumstances recorded by his family in the past is not enough. To this end, Doflamingo sent Virgo to join Marine. But so far, Virgo has found more information about Marine. Regarding world government, there are very few. Being able to know that Im is an immortal and that the 5 elders are all over 100 years old is a breakthrough for him in many years. As for the information given by Doflamingo, Yang Hao was actually very satisfied. After all, these were situations that he had not discovered in previous simulations. Of course, Yang Hao didn't have high hopes for Doflamingo. If he wants to truly find out the details of world government, it seems he has to rely on himself. Thinking like this, Yang Hao finally said goodbye to Doflamingo, took Violet and Moonlight Moria, and returned to the country of Wano. As soon as he returned here, Yang Hao received good news again. Chapter 285 The Alliance of Dragons and the Hesitation of the Red-Haired Group. Yang Hao returned to Wano country and got another good news. The message was brought by Kazuki Hiyori. As soon as he saw Yang Hao coming back, Kazuki Hiyori came up to him and reported, "Sir Yang Hao, you are back. Several people from the Revolutionary Army have come." "Oh, who are they?" Yang Hao's heart moved. Hearing the names announced by Kazuki Hiyori, a smile immediately appeared on Yang Hao's handsome face. Among the revolutionary troops who came, there was Sabo. In addition, there is Long, the leader of the Revolutionary Army. The rest are Ivankov, Scissors and others. After Yang Hao listened, he immediately understood that Long had almost brought most of the Revolutionary Army cadres. As for the purpose of his visit, he had already made some guesses. However, what the other party's purpose is will only be known after contact. Next, when Yang Hao went to the reception room, he found Ace chatting with Sabo and others. Yang Hao's gaze quickly fell on that imposing figure. Long's eyes were also looking at Yang Hao at this time. When he felt the strong aura of Yang Hao, the leader of the Revolutionary Army couldn't help but show a hint of emotion. Seeing is worth hearing 100 times. He has heard a lot of rumors about Yang Hao, and this is the first time he has seen him in person. With just one glance, Long felt that Yang Hao was not simple. No wonder you can do so many great things, it's really not easy. As for Yang Hao, his feelings are similar. The leadership qualities of the dragon are extraordinary. There was a hint of domineering surrounding him, and his intuition told him that this man must not be underestimated. I have long admired my name, Monkey D. Dragon. I should be the one to say this, ape god Yang Hao. The next second, the two people walked towards each other at the same time, shaking hands and greeting each other. This friendly situation made everyone present look slightly moved. Both Yang Hao and Long are famous figures in the world. Every move of such a big shot will cause changes or even shocks to the world situation. The seemingly friendly behavior between the two people now will definitely cause a storm if it is passed on. After exchanging a few words, Yang Hao sat down on the main seat. Kazuki Hiyori has already brought the maids to serve tea and cakes. Yang Hao, on behalf of the Revolutionary Army, I would like to express my gratitude to you. The gift you gave Saab has indirectly increased the strength of our Revolutionary Army a lot. Long suddenly started to thank him. What he was talking about was naturally the situation when Yang Hao gave Sabo the artificial devil fruit that was imitated from the blue dragon fruit. There is no doubt that after Sabo gained this ability, his power suddenly jumped from the top deputy to the top rank of the strongest. As a result, the force of their Revolutionary Army has been greatly improved. After all, it turned out that Long was the only top warrior in the Revolutionary Army, and now, there is another Sabo. One can imagine what this means. Yes, Yang Hao, thank you so much, this ability is really strong. Sabo heard this and immediately agreed. Ace, who was also present, was a little confused when he heard this, and immediately asked Sabo in a low voice. Sabo also explained a few words to him. Ace suddenly understood, and then looked shocked. Of course he knows Kaido's abilities very well, it can be copied perfectly. They were whispering there, while Yang Hao and Long started to get into the theme. Of course, Long taking Saab and so many Revolutionary Army cadres was not as simple as expressing gratitude and making friends with Yang Hao. As he spoke, Long's expression became serious. Yang Hao, I wonder what you think of world government? Hearing this, Yang Hao laughed secretly. He knew that the artificial devil fruit he sent had an effect. Long felt his goodwill and already had the idea of seeking cooperation. Thinking like this, Yang Hao immediately said, world government? What else can you think of? As a pirate, of course I am incompatible with the world government. To be honest, I have already planned to deal with the world government. Yang Hao knew what answer Long wanted to hear and said bluntly. Of course, he didn't lie either. Once his power reaches his level, the world government will definitely attack him. Even if he doesn't take action, the world government can't be indifferent to him like this. In this case, why wait for the other party to make the first move? Of course, you have to strike first. The Revolutionary Army, which has power all over the world, is a good ally. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Long apparently thought so too. Hearing Yang Hao's answer, a smile appeared on his face. In that case, Yang Hao, how about you cooperate with our Revolutionary Army? Long directly stated the purpose of this visit. Yes, this is the purpose of their coming to Wano country to visit Yang Hao. Naturally, this purpose was carefully considered and studied at meetings. In Long's view, based on their current development situation, it will be difficult to overthrow the world government even in another 10 years. But if they join forces with Yang Hao's 10,000 Beasts pirates, then this chance will immediately reach 50%. Such a chance is enough for them to devote all their resources to starting a war with the world government. Long's words also made the corners of Yang Hao's mouth rise. Long, I agree to your suggestion. Both parties have the same purpose, and it is naturally destined that they will hit it off. Ever since, Yang Hao quickly discussed cooperation with Long. Other side. The red-haired pirates. The red-haired man, Ben Beckman, and the other officers of the red-haired pirate group were also in the same room, discussing things. On the table, there are several pieces of the latest information they obtained. Among them, there is information that the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates have merged into the Beast pirates. Usopp's father, Jesus Bu, suddenly sighed. This Yang Hao is really amazing. Now they are more powerful than us. The most powerful Sea Emperor is definitely worthy of his name. Other cadres also echoed with emotion. I originally thought that they were the youngest 4 emperors and would definitely replace Whitebeard in the future and become the strongest 4 emperors and even the strongest 4 emperors group. But now, Yang Hao, who suddenly appeared, has been intercepted. Regarding this, Red Hair and Ben Beckman also had a headache. But what troubles them most is the historical text. You know, there are 4 road signs in the historical text. Before that, they had already obtained one of them. As a result, just when they wanted to continue to find ways to obtain the text of the road sign from the other 4 emperors, Yang Hao emerged. The key is that Yang Hao rose to power by stepping on Big Mom and Kaido. As far as they know, Big Mom and Kaido both have the text of the road sign in their hands. This also means that if they want to collect the text of the road signs, they may have to attack Yang Hao. And trying to do this is simply more difficult than dealing with Big Mom or Kaido. So these days, Red Hair and Ben Beckman are worrying about this problem. Are you going to start a war with Yang Hao's beast pirates? It is no joke to start a war. If they are not careful, they may follow in the footsteps of Big Mom and Kaido, suffering heavy casualties, or even being wiped out. But if there is no war, they will not be able to collect the text of the road signs and go to the final island of Raftru. Of course, even if they don't start a war, maybe Yang Hao will take action against them. After all, they also have a road sign text in their hands. It would definitely not work if they were asked to hand it over, but when it comes to fighting against the 10,000 Beasts pirates, even if he is as domineering as Red Hair, he still doesn't have much confidence. What to do? Several people discussed it for several days, but there was no good solution. However, this situation took a turn for the better with the emergence of a message. Pirate Expo? The red-haired man's face moved slightly as he muttered the information he had received.